You don't exist. Take a perk and a talk of that shit. Money swallowed like sis. Dead up perfect in the kid. Got a billion who sang on my head. Look up better put on the road I just spent. I know we got $1 million. The devil that shit ain't not cheaper again.
Hello and welcome back, fellow anime lovers, to MangaMuse. I am delighted to have you join us once again in the world of fanfiction and fantasy. This is the second part of What If Naruto Meets Sonic? Special note, this fanfic is written and a masterpiece of Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Do check and support the author too. Now smash the like, share and subscribe button for more. Also press the bell icon so that you never miss such great parts. Thanks for the introduction. Now let's dive into the world. Naruto and Tails were currently charging at the squadron of mechs in order to serve as a distraction for Sonic and Princess Elise to get away. Remember Tails, we're only going to destroy a few to grab their attention and hold them back for a while before we pull out and return to the city to meet up with Sonic and the princess. You got it Naruto, said Tails as he took out capsule-containing rings while flying. Yosh! Let's get wild. Naruto got to the group as the white humanoid mechs aimed at him and opened fire. Naruto darted left and right to avoid the shots with using a kunai to deflect any that almost got to him. Swift release, bladed shadow dance, he sped up, leaving behind afterimages as he weaved in and out of the mechs while slashing with his kunai. Another group of the humanoid mechs showed up but they're colored red and had some sort of cannons on their arms. They aimed and shot rockets which raced towards him. Naruto flipped over them quickly but was surprised to see that they turned around in midair and headed towards him again. Then a capsule containing rings intercepted them and got hit, which released the rings inside to hit the other missiles, causing them to spark with electricity before exploding. Naruto looked up to see Tails flying above him with another capsule in his hand. Thanks for the assist Tails. No problem Naruto, there's more ahead of us, said Tails pointing in a certain direction. Got it, let's go. Naruto ran forward with Tails close behind. He ran through some ruins and those crab-like mechs sticking to the walls and more of those humanoid mechs aiming their guns at him. He could see some sort of cage made of blue energy behind them. Naruto, those mechs seem to be protecting that cage for some reason. Maybe if we take care of them, the cage will open. Then let's get to it, you take care of the wall crawlers while I handle the firing squad. Tails nodded in affirmation and then charged at the crab mechs who saw him and threw their bombs. He flew up into the air to avoid the explosions, then he took aim at them and threw a capsule which destroyed some of the crab mechs while the rest fell to the ground and the bits of dummy rings fell on them, damaging them further. Score. Tails pumped his fist in victory. Naruto ran forward and slid between the legs of one of the mechs and slammed an exploding tag on the ground. He jumped away and formed a ram hand seal before pulsing his chakra, which made the tag catch fire before exploding, which destroyed any mechs nearby. Then the cage opened up to reveal a spring. They bounced off it to reach higher ground and kept on moving until they ran into a fleet of robots that are built for flying. Naruto threw chakra-infused shurikens at them while Tails did the same with his dummy rings to bring them down. They reached the edge of the ruin and there was a bottomless pit in the middle of the path, and there was no wall for Naruto to use and he couldn't jump far enough. Tails flew above him and called out, Naruto, grab on, I'll carry you over to the other side. Naruto jumped and held onto his hands as they flew over the pit and got to the other side before Tails got too tired to continue flying. Thanks for the lift, said Naruto with a thumbs up. Suddenly a mech appeared from behind and was about to attack Tails. Tails, watch out. Naruto threw a kunai at the mech only to realize that it wasn't the regular one. He felt a slight tugging within himself and the next thing he knew was that he stood in between Tails and the mech. He quickly reacted by slamming a rasengan into the mech, destroying it. Naruto looked at the kunai he threw, which is a Hiraishin kunai, and realized what he just did. Tails snapped out of his shock before asking Naruto what he did. What was that you just did, Naruto? It was like you teleported, and I thought only Shadow could do it with a Chaos Emerald. It's called the Hiraishin or Flying Thunder God. The user places a special seal on a marked location, then they can instantly transport themselves to it no matter how far it is. 2 people knew how to use it, with one being a former leader of my village and the other my father, and I guess that I'm the third. My dad most often applies the formula on these kunai, which gave him the moniker of Yellow Flash, as that is what his enemies see whenever he moves in to attack. And your being his son has allowed you to use it as well, since you both share the same chakra signature, said Kurama. So this is the technique which you said I could now use, thought Naruto. Yes, but you can't use it at far distances yet, so watch how you use it. Naruto gave a mental nod before turning to Tails. Alright then, let's give it one more push before we get out of the desert. Tails nodded in affirmation before they continued onwards. They hit a dash ramp which sent them to the lower levels of another ruin, where they found another bottomless pit, only bigger, and their several mechs hovering in the air before them. I don't think I can carry you this far, Naruto, said Tails worriedly. Don't worry about it, Tails, I have an idea to get across. Naruto dashed forward and threw a Hiraishin kunai at a mech close to him. When the kunai embedded itself in the mech, Naruto flashed towards it. He appeared on top and yanked the kunai out before throwing it at another mech, and then flashed towards it too, and he kept this up until he kicked off the last one and landed on a platform, with Tails landing next. In front of them stood a mech which was very different from the ones they've dealt with so far. This one looked like a golem with huge fists with yellow circle glowing at the chest. The golem aimed its fists at them, then they shot out of its joints and raced towards them. Naruto placed a palm on one of the incoming fist and vaulted over before making a straight dash at the now armless mech, only for it to twist its upper body around while shoot machine gun rounds, forcing Naruto to use shadow dance to evade. Tails provided support by throwing a capsule of dummy rings at the mech, which didn't do much damage, but the electrical surges slowed it down. Naruto jumped back and held his palm to form another rasengan. Then he jumped into the air and slammed it into its energy core, causing it to explode. I think that's most of them, said Naruto as he dusted his hands. Yeah, and there's more heading towards us. Tails pointed at a squad of Eggman's mechs heading their way. Looks like we finally got their attention. Sonic and Elise must be long gone by now, so now it's time for us to make our way back to the city and meet up with them. Naruto crossed his fingers and formed to shadow clones. You guys know what to do. They nodded before forming a hand sign as they transformed into carbon copies of him and Tails before taking off with the mechs. My clones will keep them busy while we get out of here. Okay, Naruto, let's go. Tails flew off towards the city with Naruto running next to him. Soon the 2 foxes had finally arrived back to the city. Tails split up with him, saying that he wants to check something out in another part of the city, and said that he would meet up with them later. Naruto was walking along the street in search of his fellow speedster and princess when he saw Sonic running nearby, and he looked serious. Naruto ran up to Sonic and called out to him, Yo Sonic, what's going on and where is the princess? Oh Naruto, well you see. When we got back to the city. Flashback start. Sonic and Elise were walking back to her castle when he suddenly sensed something heading towards them. He quickly carried Elise and jumped away just as cyan-colored aura struck where they stood. I've been looking for you. You're the Iblis Trigger. They turned to see Hedgehog float down to the ground. He is light gray with white fur surrounding his neck and tan skin. He has 2 large spines at the back of his head, while at the front of his forehead there are 5 distinct spines flared up and back, with the 2 final ones covering up most of his ears. He wears white gloves with gold cuffs and circular aqua symbols, and white, navy and aqua boots with gold cuffs. Your actions will condemn us all. Sonic stood in front of Elise to protect her. Who are you? My name is Silver, and for the future of the world, I will destroy you. I have no idea what he's talking about, but I'd better defend myself, thought Sonic as he engaged this mysterious enemy. He learnt that this hedgehog has the power to move objects around him with his judging from the fact random stuff are launched at him whenever the palms of his hands glow and he waves them around. However, with his speed, Sonic was able to avoid the attacks as well as wear him down with several hits. Soon Sonic had beaten Silver to his knees and was approaching to ask what he was talking about earlier. Hey. Silver quickly got up and used his psychokinesis to send Sonic flying into a wall, incapacitating him. Then he walked and looked down on Sonic, who was trying to get back on his feet. Humph, is this a joke? How could someone like you cause the destruction of our world? What are you talking about? Asked Sonic. It doesn't matter, for the sake of the future the Iblis trigger must be destroyed. Silver raised his hand to strike the final blow when they heard Elise cry out. They turned to see that Eggman had shown up again in his ship with Elise in his clutches and was getting away. Elise? Wait! Sonic got up and tried to run after them but got knocked down when Silver used his psychokinesis on him. Don't you dare turn your back on me. It's time I finally put an end to this. Silver was about to strike again when they heard someone say stop and stood in between them. Both hedgehogs recognized who it was. Amy, said Sonic in surprise. Get out of my way, Amy. This is my mission, said Silver. Absolutely not, said the pink hedgehog adamantly. Sonic got back up to his feet and looked at Amy. Thanks, Amy, I appreciate it. Then he ran in the direction he last saw Eggman. Leave it to me, said Amy. Don't worry, Elise, my friends, and I will definitely save you, thought Sonic as he ran. Flashback end. And that's what happened. I just don't get why he keeps calling me the Iblis trigger, said Sonic. Well, back at Wave Ocean, I met a girl whose name is Blaze. She said that she and a friend of hers came from the future, and that their world was destroyed by the flames of disaster whom they also call Iblis, said Naruto. I'm sure that hedgehog is the friend of the cat, said Kurama. Then why are they targeting me? Asked Sonic. Someone told them that you were responsible for releasing the flames into the world, something that I believe is a lie, said Naruto. You're right, it rather sounds like something that Eggman would do, which makes it very important that we save Elise before that happens, said Sonic with Naruto nodding in agreement. Oh no, this is terrible. The duo turned to the voice and saw a man in a black suit, wearing a top hat and a monocle on his left eye, and he was pacing around looking clearly distressed. Sonic and Naruto walked to know what's bothering the man. Excuse me, sir, but is there something the matter? Asked Naruto. Indeed, young sir, Eggman's mech have appeared in the new city and I need to let everyone know right away, said the man worriedly. Don't worry, we'll take care of it, said Sonic with Naruto nodding in agreement. Thank you kindly. Naruto and Sonic took off, they to the northeastern side of the city where they came upon the large gate which was open for them to gain access to the new city. They were about to pass through when Sonic's bracelet beeped and they could hear Tails' voice through it. Sonic, can you hear me? Knuckles wants to see you. Head to the town's warehouse. Who's Knuckles? Asked Naruto curiously. He's another good friend of mine. He possesses great strength but also a short temper, so be sure to watch out for that, said Sonic with a smirk. Got it, let's go. Then they passed through the gate and found themselves running through the tall buildings of the new city. First things first, we need to find and destroy Eggman's mechs. He summoned a shadow clone who ran up the side of the building to scope the area, then it puffed into as Naruto received its memories. Eggman's mechs have been spotted at the warehouse. That's where Tails and Knuckles are waiting for us, let's clean up and meet with them, said Sonic. They ran towards the warehouse area near the docks. When they reached the walls surrounding the place, Naruto and Sonic easily jumped over it with no problem. There they saw Eggman's mechs moving around. Let's go, Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto summoned his clones as they charged in and proceed to destroy the mechs with their techniques, with Sonic not far behind with his homing attacks and spin dash. Soon enough they were standing among scrap metal with not a robot functional. Naruto, Sonic. They turned to see Tails running towards them. There you are, Knuckles is right over there, come on. They followed him to the other side of the warehouse where they saw someone standing there. He is a red echidna bearing a white crescent mark on his chest. He wears white gloves similar to boxing gloves and has two spiked knuckle claws on each hand, and he wears red and yellow shoes with green cuffs and gray sextuple bolted plates on top. Knuckles, said Sonic. The echidna turned to face them. Hey Sonic, who's the new guy? Asked Knuckles. The name's Naruto Uzumaki, the nine-tailed fox ninja. I'm working with Sonic so that we can save the princess, said Naruto with a wave of his hand. Sure thing, anyway I saw Eggman on the outskirts of the city. He wanted me to give this to you. Knuckles tossed a red card that he was holding over to Sonic, who caught it. Suddenly a hologram of Eggman appeared and he started to talk. Sonic the Hedgehog. If you want me to return the princess, you must give me your Chaos Emerald. Meet me at my base in White Acropolis, said Eggman. The recording ends and Sonic tosses the card back to Knuckles, who lets it drop to the floor and crushes it with his foot. "Huh, he's pretty cocky," said Knuckles with a frown. "And with good reason, right? He has more to gain than we have to lose," said Naruto with his arms crossed. "It's most definitely a trap." "I don't think Eggman would honor his agreement," said Tails worriedly. "The kid is right, we haven't known that human for long, but he's just as sneaky as Orochimaru," said Kurama. Sonic took out the blue Chaos Emerald and looked at it for a while. Before finally speaking, "I'm going." Tails looked at him in surprise. "Sonic? Since Eggman went to the trouble of telling me where Elise is, I think I should thank him personally." "Count me in, I owe that egghead a Knuckles sandwich," said Naruto. Then he turned to Knuckles. "No offense." Knuckles shook his head. "None taken, since I myself have one for him too." He punched his fists together just to prove it. Then they headed out in search of the way to White Acropolis. Somewhere else in Solana, Silver the Hedgehog was sitting on the sidewalk thinking of the conversation which he had with Amy. He told her that Sonic was the cause for the destruction of his world and he must kill him to prevent it from happening. Amy refused to believe him and told him that Sonic would never do that. Even if it was true, she would choose Sonic over the world before leaving him. "So this is where you are. I've been looking all over for you." Silver snapped out of his thoughts and turned to see his friend Blaze walking up to him. She noticed that something was bothering him. "What's wrong?" "Well, Blaze. To kill someone to save the world, is it really the right thing to do?" asked Silver. "You can be so naive sometimes. Whether it is right or wrong, I can't say. But I do know is that if we don't take this chance, then the future will remain the same," said Blaze. "You're right, since he's after Dr. Eggman, let's sneak into Eggman's base," said Silver. Blaze nodded in affirmation before the two time travelers set off after Sonic. Meanwhile, Naruto and Team Sonic had found the cave gate which led to the icy mountains of White Acropolis. After making their way down the mountains, they found themselves before the gates of Eggman's base with a mech battalion waiting for them. When fighting through the horde, they got spotted by a searchlight which alerted more robots to their locations, so Naruto used his stealth and shurikens to take out more searchlight to avoid a repetition, which Knuckles would take down any golem-type mechs that show up. There were a few switches that couldn't be reached, but Tails was there to help out with his talent for flight to activate them. Soon they found their way to the inner sanctum and were running through a long hall before stopping in front of a door which opened for them to pass through into a circular room. "You're late." They looked up to see Eggman standing in a room behind a glass window and was looking down on them. "Well, we had to deal with you little pets," said Knuckles. "And they were quite rude. You could have taught them manners, you know," said Naruto with a smirk which was shared by Kurama. "You're just as annoying as Sonic," Eggman growled in anger. "Where's Elise?" asked Sonic. "My, aren't we impatient?" Eggman reached over and roughly pulled Elise into view. "Sonic, Naruto," shouted Elise. Sonic and the others got ready to fight while Naruto crossed his index and middle fingers in preparation to create some shadow clones. You better not move," said Eggman with a smirk. "Now, the Chaos Emerald." Sonic held it out for him to see. "Now place it there." He points to a pedestal which rises from the floor. Elise shakes her head as if telling them not to do it, but Sonic walks over and places the emerald on it and it went back into the floor. Naruto's eyes narrowed when he saw Eggman smile evilly and press a button. Suddenly a pink force field generated from the ceiling and surrounded Sonic and the others, much to their surprise. Wah. Tails was looking around confusedly. Then Knuckles moved up to the force field and punched it only to get knocked back. "Let me give it a try, Knuckles," said Naruto as he formed a rasengan in his hand. He slammed it into the force field, but it still held strong against his attack. "DMN, I knew that we would walk into a trap. But we never expected this." "It's no use, it's too powerful for you to overcome," said Eggman. "Now allow me to introduce to you my latest creation." This is the Solaris prototype. Elise let out a gasp while Naruto narrowed his eyes when they heard the name, Solaris. Isn't that the name of the sun god? What is he talking about? Eggman chuckled evilly as he walked to the other side of the room and pulled the lever. With this machine, I'll be able to control the flow of time itself. The machine started to suck them upwards. Naruto and the others tried to resist, but the suction was too strong and they were pulled into the vortex and force field disappeared with them. Elise leaned against the window as she saw them vanish without a trace. Rest assured, they're not dead, yet, said Eggman, they've just been teleported by my glorious invention to another time. Who knows where they'll end up? It could be the distant past or far future. But my machine still requires some fine-tuning. In fact, what my machine needs in order to be complete, is your power. My power? Asked Elise. Yes, I can finally complete my plans, now that I have the Chaos Emeralds, and you. Eggman pointed at her, the Princess of Solana. That's all I need to revive the flames of disaster. And with its power, I will be able to control everything and rule the world. So, you would be wise to remain on my good side. He walks off, leaving Elise to look back at the room her new friends once were. I hope you're all safe, wherever you are, Elise thought with hope that they would come back. Naruto, Sonic and the others emerged out of the vortex and plummeted towards the ground. Sonic and Naruto were able to land on their feet while the others didn't land so well. Are you guys okay? Asked Naruto. Yeah, but I feel a bit dizzy, said Tails as he slowly got up to his feet and started to look around. Where are we? I believe the right question is when are we? Doesn't the room look familiar? Said Naruto. Tails took another look around. You're right, this room looks the same as the one we were in before. Naruto, they're two strangers approaching, but they have no ill intentions, said Kurama. Oh, look who's here. I didn't expect to see you guys, a feminine voice spoke out. They turned to look up a ledge to see two figures there. One is a white female bat with her muzzle and torso somewhat tan, and her wings are colored dark purple. Her short white hair flares out to the back and she wears powder blue eyeshadow as well as pink lipstick. She wears an attire of black CHST high jumpsuit with pink heart CHST plate, elbow-long white gloves with pink cuffs and high-heeled white boots also with pink cuffs. Naruto looked at the other and could have sworn he was Sonic's twin except that he was a total contrast to the blue speedster. He is a black hedgehog with red stripes in his quills with 4 of them pointing upward while the 2 point downwards, and he has 2 spines on his back and a small tail. He wears white gloves with black and red-tongued cuffs, his shoes are white with black heel regions and soles, and what seems to be red strips of metal on the rear and front of the bottom of each shoe. What Naruto noticed the most was the rings on his wrists and ankles. He seems to be holding back a lot of power within himself, almost like it was sealed away, said Kurama. Rouge and Shadow. Tails said the names respectively as they excluding Naruto were surprised to see them here. Hi. Long time no see. And who happens to be the handsome grown-up fox with you? Asked Rouge, Shadow looking at Naruto with a hint of interest. This is our friend Naruto, he's a 9-tailed fox ninja, said Tails. A ninja huh? I'd like to see how sneaky you can be. Rouge gave a flirtatious wink which made Naruto blush and he could hear Kurama laughing at him. There is something you need to see, come with us, said Shadow before he turned and walked off with Rouge following. Naruto and the others looked at each other before they followed him as well. They walked out of the facility and found themselves standing on top of a cliff but were shocked at what they were seeing. Before them is a city in total ruin, burning and knocked over buildings, destroyed highways and ground submerged in molten magma. This is the distant future, far removed from our time, said Shadow. This place is the future. No wonder why Blaze and Silver wants to change the past so badly, thought Naruto. Indeed, I've never seen this kind of devastation since our battle with the Jubi, said Kurama. The future? Then that means Eggman's machine can control time. But it doesn't seem like he has full control over it, said Tails. Eggman's got some nerve dropping us here, said Sonic. So then how do we get back to our time, asked Knuckles. You need a space-time rift, but this requires a lot of energy, said Shadow. Sonic immediately caught on to what Shadow was talking about. I get it, you mean by using your chaos control will open a rift to take us to our time. Yes, but that alone is insufficient. In other words, we need to work together to find the Chaos Emeralds, said Naruto, getting a silent nod from the stoic hedgehog. Geez, this guy is just as much of an emo as Sasuke. Tell me about it, said Kurama. Okay guys, let's go. The sooner we can find those Chaos Emeralds, the sooner we can get back to our time and rescue Elise, said Sonic. Then they took off into the city with Rouge and Shadow watching them. That foxy boy is quite an interesting one, would you agree, Shadow, said Rouge. Yes, I could somehow sense great power sleeping deep within him. It makes me curious how powerful he could be, said Shadow before they left as well in search of a Chaos Emerald. Naruto and Team Sonic were running through the ruined buildings of the burning city in search of a Chaos Emerald before meeting up with Shadow and Rouge so that they can create a time rift which will send them back to the present. So how do we go about searching for a Chaos Emerald since we don't exactly have the means to do, asked Knuckles. Let's split up, Sonic and I will comb through the city while you and Tails look around for anything that could help, said Naruto. Alright, we'll contact you if we find anything, said Tails, then he flew off with Knuckles jumping in the air and glided after him. Sonic and Naruto stood over a knocked-down building and looked down at the landscape laid out before them as fire would shoot out from the ground every once in a while. Man, the whole city is on fire, said Sonic. Kit, you and your friend better watch yourselves, I sense that the flames are alive, which is why they burst from the ground time to time, said Kurama. Naruto nodded in affirmation before turning to Sonic. Sonic, we should be careful. Those flames seem to be alive and would attack us at any given time. Gotcha, Naruto, and I have an idea on just how we can through here, said Sonic with a grin which piqued Naruto's curiosity. Moments later, Sonic and Naruto were speeding down a slanted building on long pieces of metal to serve as makeshift snowboards. Sonic was swerving around the obstacles like a pro, while Naruto was able to manage thanks to his reflexes and remembered how one of the ninjas rode on one during his mission in the snow country when he was protecting Princess Koyuki. He swerved left and right to avoid the flames which suddenly shot out from the ground. He flipped over a broken car which was in his way and hit a ramp which sent him flying into the air, where he performed a method air plus 360 spin before landing next to Sonic as they continued to ride down the building. When they reached the end, they jumped off and landed on some rails which they grinded along before reaching of it as well to get onto a broken highway. Whoa Naruto, heads up, shouted Sonic as pieces of buildings fell from above and almost crushed them. Gotcha, replied Naruto, swerving quickly to evade the falling debris. Then suddenly something shot out of the ground before them. It looked like a segmental worm which is made of red and orange lava with its back and head covered in rock-like armor. It has no eyes and its mouth is composed of 3 creeping mandibles. The worm opened up its mandibles and shot fireballs at Sonic and Naruto, but they managed to dodge them by sliding from side to side and got away from it. What was that thing? Asked Sonic. Whatever it was, it must have been created by the flames, which is in other words Iblis, said Naruto. You're right about that, Kit. Those creatures share the same energy signature as the flames around us, and I feel that there are more to come, said Kurama. The fox was right, as more of those worms burst from the ground with a few launching fireballs and others lunging at them with their mandibles open to eat them. But Sonic and Naruto were able to evade them as the worms attacked before any of their attacks could hit them. Sonic. Something's coming from behind, so watch out, said Naruto when his senses picked up a few hostiles coming in from behind fast. Sonic turned around to see what was coming. They looked like a cross between a phoenix and bat, while also made of the same orange and red lava, having 2 ears which curl upward to almost resemble horns, and they also have long tails with pear-shaped tips. I got this. Sonic used a destroyed car as ramp to launch himself into the air. he jumped off the board and used his homing attack to send them flying into a wall before landing back on the board. Nothing to it, he smirked. Then he looked ahead of them and saw a dash ramp. Looks like our ride ends here. They hit the dash ramp, which sent them flying into the air, where they jumped off the makeshift snowboards before landing on the streets below. "Hey, check it out, we got a welcoming committee," said Naruto as several worms burst from the ground and few phoenixes descended from the sky. Naruto took out a Hiraishin kunai while Sonic crouched a bit with his legs apart. "Then let's accept their reception." Sonic crouched into a ball and started spinning quickly before speeding forward and slamming into the one of the worms when opened its mandibles to launch a fireball, sending it crashing to the floor and laid there unmoving. Then he jumped into the air and used the homing attack to knock the phoenixes out of the sky before landing on the ground. Naruto was running towards two worms who lunged at him. He tossed the kunai into the air and waited for them to get close to him. Right at that moment, he disappeared in a flash of yellow light as the worms dug their mandibles into the ground, and he reappeared above them with a rasengan in each hand. "Take this, rasengan barrage." He slammed the attack on their heads, driving them further into the ground as they laid there unmoving before catching the falling kunai with one of his tails. "Naruto, come on this way," shouted Sonic as he followed a trail of rings which led to a wide spring. They bounced off it to get to the ledge of a partially destroyed building. They quickly dashed to the other side where more phoenixes appeared before them with a deep chasm below. "Let's use these guys as footholds to get across to the other side." "One step ahead of you, buddy." Naruto flung his Hiraishin kunai to hit one before flashing over to it and throwing at another. Sonic followed up with the homing attack before they jumped into another building. This time waiting for them were lizard-like creatures made entirely of red and orange lava. They have hardened armor on their head which resembles a shark fin, back and limbs. They roared at Naruto and Sonic before jumping at them with claws outstretched. Naruto jumped back a bit before the lizard landed and was about to attack when it opened its mouth and let loose a stream of flames. Swift release, shadow dance. He blurred out of sight and reappeared behind it only for it to lash out with its tail, but he responded with his own and they entangled. He started to spin around several times before letting go, to sending the lizard crashing through a wall and opening up another way for them to access. "Sonic, let's go." Sonic had just finished his by curling into a spiny ball and bouncing HRD on it back a few times before it laid unmoving and nodded in affirmation. They ran through the opening and jumped onto a nearby rail and grinded along it before landing on another part of the broken streets. They sped through the streets and stepped on a dash panel which launched them forward as they ran through a loop before hitting a dash ramp which took them to a tall tower. In the center is a spring which Naruto and Sonic stepped to bounce them high into the air. They were at the peak of their jump when an extremely powerful wind current blew through, was carrying cars, parts of buildings, and streets. The speeding duo ended up landing on of them and looked around with surprise. "Whoa, the winds around here must be really strong enough to do this," said Sonic. "I know, but we've got to get out of here before we get ourselves too lost," said Naruto with the blue hedgehog nodding in affirmation. They leapt from platform to platform while struggling against the wind that kept pushing them off towards the ground before at a dangerous height. A few phoenixes and worms got in their way, but they able to take them out. They hit a spring which sent them jumping from one piece of debris to another until they got to the end. Naruto looked into the distance and saw something which gave him an idea. "I figured a way to get out of this wind current, so follow my lead." Then he ran forward and jumped the platform, much to Sonic's surprise, before he followed after him. In midair, Naruto crossed his middle and index fingers together and called out, "Multi-shadow clone jutsu." A large amount of clones puffed into existence. Then they started to grab each other's legs to form a makeshift rope. He swung them around at a building where to one at the end quickly latched onto. Sonic and Naruto swung from the other side and were able to break free from the wind current and found themselves landing on a rather long highway. Sonic whistled at the stunt that they just pulled off. "That was pretty tight." "Thanks." Naruto smirked back at him. Then they heard a roaring sound from behind and turned around to see a giant flaming tornado heading in their direction. "Whoa, that tornado is carrying a car. Make that plural. Let's do what we do best, run." They took off down the highway with the tornado in pursuit as it was flinging cars at them from behind as they darted left and right to evade. "The both of you better watch out for obstacles both in front and behind," said Kurama as he watched through Naruto's senses. "Got it." Naruto replied as he jumped over a car that landed in front of him before darting to the left to avoid a falling iron beam. The flaming tornado was slowly gaining on them and chucking even more cars than before. Suddenly a massive amount of debris fell from above and landed on the street, completely blocking the road. Naruto saw this and created a shadow clone. Together they formed a rasengan much bigger than normal and charged at it. Giant ball rasengan. The large blue spinning sphere blew away the debris for them to quickly pass through. Naruto. "Let's lose this hot breeze for good." With that said, Sonic picked up speed to the point of appearing like a blue blur. Naruto channeled chakra to his feet, which increased his speed to the point of leaving behind afterimages as they easily outpaced the flaming tornado and got off the highway. "Man, that was close," said Naruto, wiping sweat from his forehead. "I gotta say, Sonic, you're fast." "It was no sweat, I hadn't even hit top speed yet." "But you're not so bad yourself, makes me wonder what Shadow would think of it," said Sonic with a grin. Suddenly his bracelet beeped and Tails' voice rang out from it. "Sonic, Naruto, can you hear me? We read you loud and clear. Tails, what's up? Knuckles and I have found a working facility. We might find a computer that could help us track down the energy of a Chaos Emerald. I'm sending you the coordinates to meet up with us." "Gotcha Tails, we're on our way," said Naruto. Then they followed the directions and found Tails and Knuckles waiting at the entrance of a ruined building. "So what happened at your end?" asked Knuckles. "Oh, nothing much, just fought some monsters made out of lava and jump on top of flying pieces of buildings and streets in a wind draft," said Sonic nonchalantly. "And let's not forget that we had to outrun a flaming tornado that was chucking cars at us," Naruto added in. "I guess your exploration wasn't so boring," said Knuckles as they walked through the corridors of the building, "but I have to say that no matter where we look, all we see are ruins. I still can't believe that this is our future." "But could it have come to this?" said Tails. "Something must have happened to Elise to release the flames, but what?" said Sonic, then noticed Naruto tense a bit. "What's up, Naruto?" "I'm sensing 3 people ahead of us," said Naruto. "How do you know that?" asked Tails. "Thanks to a good friend of mine, I have the ability to sense emotions, and right now I'm sensing some over there." He pointed at a metal door that was slightly open. They quietly walked over, peeked inside to see a large database computer with 3 figures standing before it. 2 of which Naruto and Sonic are familiar with, but the third was what surprised them. It was a hedgehog who almost looked like Shadow, but his colorations are a bit different. "Kit, can you sense the negativity from that hedgehog?" asked Kurama with narrowed eyes. "Yeah, he practically leaks evil from within. We better keep an eye on him," thought Naruto, with Kurama nodding in agreement. Then they listened in on the conversation. "Is it true, Mafils?" asked Silver the Hedgehog. "If I eliminate that guy, will our world be saved?" The mysterious black hedgehog nodded to confirm the question. "Yes indeed, here are the records of the day of disaster. This was when Iblis was freed and his flames were released into the world." He pressed a key on the control panel and screenshots of Solana in the past appeared on the large screen. "And you have this person to blame." He held out a purple Chaos Emerald which Silver took and peered at. "I see it. So the blue hedgehog is the Iblis trigger," said Silver. Blaze the cat walked over and looked at it. "Blue hedgehog." Then she turned to look at the entrance, but Naruto and the others quickly moved out of her sight when they saw her turning around. "I'll send us back to the time when the Iblis trigger was still alive." Mafils formed a purple orb between his hands which spread out to cover him along with Silver and Blaze before disappearing out of sight. Seeing that they were gone, Naruto and the others entered the room and approached the computer. "Who was that guy? He looked just like Shadow," said Knuckles. "More like an imposter. I was sensing some bad vibes from him," said Naruto. "He was the one who lied to the hedgehog and cat. That Sonic was the one who caused the future to end up like this," said Kurama. This is terrible," said Tails as he was pressing away on the keyboard. "What is it, Tails?" asked Naruto as he, Sonic and Knuckles walked over to the two-tailed fox. According to the data, the princess died when she was kidnapped by Eggman. Apparently Eggman's battleship exploded. When did this happen? Asked Naruto urgently. The date is this incident was 2 days after the Festival of the Sun. If we don't return in time, Elise will die on board Eggman's battleship. Then that means, said Sonic. It means that if Elise dies, then the flames of disaster will be released onto the world, Naruto finished grimly. Tails, have you learned the location of a Chaos Emerald? Asked Knuckles. Just give a second, Tails typed on the keyboard for a few minutes. I got it, there's Chaos Emerald located somewhere in a volcano. I'll contact Shadow and Rouge to meet us there. After contacting them, Naruto and Team Sonic left the city and arrived at the volcanic area in the outskirts where they found Shadow and Rouge waiting for them. You guys are so slow. Look, Rouge holds out a green Chaos Emerald with a smug look on her face. You guys already found a Chaos Emerald, that's pretty quick, said Naruto. Well, not to toot my own horn, but I'm a real treasure hunter. Maybe I can teach you a thing or two, unlike a certain echidna I know. Hearing that, Knuckles angrily walked up to her. What did you say? Then he grunts and walks away. Have you guys discovered anything? Asked Shadow with his arms crossed. Yeah, we received a signal indicating that there's a Chaos Emerald here, but, said Tails before pointing at a volcano. You mean we have to go through there? Asked Rouge. Then if you don't like it, you can stay here, said Knuckles. You've got to be kidding. Naruto quickly spoke up before they got into an argument. Calm down, we need to focus on getting to the emerald so that we can get back to our own time. Whatever you say, Foxy, said Rouge while Knuckles grumbled a bit. Don't be late, said Sonic. Humph, same to you. Shadow walked by him before taking off with the others close behind. The group were running along the ledges of the mountain with Tails and Rouge flying above, Sonic, Shadow, Knuckles and Naruto running on the ground. Watch out for the lava which burst out from the ground, said Knuckles just as they jumped out of the way of an eruption. Then they ran through a shuttle loop which ended with a triple spring. They bounced on it to send them high into the air, giving them a view of the landscape ahead of them as well as the volcano. Hoo-hoo! What a view, said Sonic excitedly. It seems like the crust's energy is getting out of control. Could it be because of the Chaos Emeralds? Said Shadow. It's a possibility, said Knuckles. They descended to the ground and ran through another shuttle loop and hit a dash ramp to send them flying to a clearing. There more of the worms, lizards, and phoenixes appeared before them, but there was another creature among them. It looked like a humanoid giant made entirely of lava with cooled molten earth encasing its limbs like arms, legs, wrists, shoulders, chest and head as armor. Whoa, that's quite a welcome just for us, said Sonic. Looks like we got a heavy hitter among them. This might be a good workout for me, said Knuckles. Let's take it to M, guys. Naruto charged forward with his claws bared. The others were close behind as they picked their opponents. Tails threw his dummy rings at the phoenixes and Rouge supported with her pink heart-shaped bombs to blow them out of the sky and send them crashing to the ground. Chaos attack. Shadow skated forwards and jumped into the air at a worm who opened its mandibles to take a bite out of him, but he was faster and launched a barrage of punches and kicks before finishing up with an axe kick to drive it to the ground. A worm came in from behind, then Shadow turned around with yellow electricity in his hands, Chaos Spear, and threw an arrow-shaped energy which paralyzed, and then he unleashed another chaos attack on it as well. 4 lizards surrounded Sonic who was smirking. Well, what are you waiting for? I'm right here. He did a come here gesture which pretty much irritated them as they attacked him at the same time. Sonic started spinning his legs around like he's breakdancing at high speeds that it formed a miniature tornado and knocked them away from him. Had too easy. Knuckles was charging at the golem who raised a hand and lava formed around it to take the shape of a spiked ball, then it was thrown at the echidna. Knuckles leapt high into the air to dodge it, ground shaker, then he dived straight towards the ground fist first while spinning himself rapidly while giving off a flaming red aura. He struck the ground with enough force to create a shockwave on the ground which affected the golem to the point that it couldn't move. Now you're mine. Knuckles launched himself at the golem's head and slammed a powerful haymaker to take it down. Naruto was charging at his own group of lizards. Let's get wild. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He created a handful of clones as they ran along his side. Flurry of the Skulk. They all attacked with their claws bared, slashing left and right, giving the lizards a chance for them to retaliate. Then he leapt back to see them fade away into the atmosphere. There seems to be a larger amount of enemies than usual. It's best that you keep a sharp eye out when you enter the volcano, Kurama. Got it, thought Naruto. Then they heard a rumble and turned to see that lava and brimstone was shooting out of the volcano. The volcano is erupting. Let's go, said Shadow. Then they took off towards the cliff which had a dash ramp at the end and launched themselves towards the crater of the volcano. They landed on a rock platform with rivers of lava around most of the area with columns of rocks sticking out. Now that we're here in the core of the volcanic, let's find that Chaos Emerald, said Naruto. They split up with Shadow and Rouge going through a lava tube while Sonic, Tails and Knuckles went through another, leaving Naruto to scope out the area on his own. Naruto ran forward, bounced off a spring to get onto a ledge above him. Two worms burst out of the ground to attack. Naruto cartwheeled to the right to avoid the attack and threw kunai wrapped with explosive tags into their mouths which exploded within them. Then he heard rumbling and saw a stone door slid downwards to reveal a tunnel. I guess it must have opened since I took down the enemies around here, thought Naruto. He proceeded through the tunnel and ended up in another cavern which suddenly darkened to his surprise. What just happened? I advise that you watch your step, Naruto, or you might end up falling into the lava, said Kurama, but it's a good us foxes can see in the dark. You're right about that, said Naruto as he leapt on the platforms with little trouble. Then he saw a purple orb looking like a hardened form of lava levitating above a platform. Feeling curious, he threw a shuriken at it which made lit up with a purple glow, illuminating most of the surrounding area. Well, this makes it easier for me to get around. He continued through the cavern while striking more of the orbs to light up the path till he was finally out of the cavern. I thought we would never get out of there, said Kurama, with Naruto nodding in agreement. He bounced off a couple of springs to ascend a waterfall of lava. Then he threw a Hiraishin kunai to a wall before flashing over to it. Then he kicked off it to land on a ledge and ran along it to enter another lava tube. Once inside, the room darkened again much to his annoyance, and he also found Sonic and Tails there. I guess you guys couldn't advance because of the darkness. Yeah, but Knuckles is helping us out by finding those orbs to light up the way, said Sonic. Sure enough, the cavern lit up brightly for the gang to advance and found a grinning Knuckles waiting for them. Told you I could handle it, said Knuckles. They continued their descent to the core and reunited with Shadow and Rouge along the way until they finally found themselves standing before a large volcanic pool and saw a cyan Chaos Emerald floating in the air. Rouge flew up to the emerald and reached out to take. I found a Chaos Emerald. Naruto immediately sensed something approaching them, and it seemed like Shadow sensed it as well as he called out to her. Don't touch it, shouted Shadow. Naruto quickly threw an Hiraishin kunai at Rouge and flashed over to her. Then he carried her in a bridal carry which made her blush a bit before using one of his tails to grab the kunai and then flung it back to where the others are and flashing away right before something burst out of the magma. Thanks for the save, Foxy, said Rouge as Naruto set her down. No problem, said Naruto with a foxy grin. Then they turned their attention to the monster before them. It resembled a giant worm with a serpent-like body and an armored ripped-up head, and there is a green eye located on its forehead before it closed its eyelid. What is this thing? I think that's Iblis. Everyone looked at Naruto with surprise in their eyes. What makes you so sure of that? Asked Sonic. Because the energy that I'm sensing from it is the same as the monsters which we fought on the way here, only much stronger. Well, we're gonna have to beat it if we want to get that Chaos Emerald, said Knuckles. Sonic stepped forward with Shadow and Naruto walking up to his side. Leave this to us. Iblis unleashed a powerful roar which shook the lava dome so strong that the stalactites from the ceiling were shaken off and fell into the lava pool. serving as footholds for them to get across. But they were still too far away from the monster. "We're too far out of range to attack. Is there some way for us to draw it in?" said Sonic as he landed on one of the footholds. Shadow looked around for a bit before seeing something in the distance which gave him an idea. Then he called out to the others, "We could light up those orbs over there, they would attract it to come closer, that way we can attack it." Naruto and Sonic turned to where Shadow was pointing and saw 3 tall platforms with a purple orb on each of them at the center of the lava dome. "Sounds like a plan, but until then, heads up." They jumped out of the way when Iblis launched a volley of fireballs at them and it destroyed the platforms that they landed on them. "We're gonna need more footholds if we need to reach those orbs," said Sonic. "Leave that to me." Naruto wrapped some exploding tags on his kunais before throwing them at the ceiling. The explosion was powerful enough to break off some stalactites to fall onto the lava, with some leading to one of the orbs. Sonic quickly jumped on the new footholds till he got close to the orb and used his homing attack to make it light up before backing away from it. Soon they noticed that the magma was bubbling a bit before Iblis burst out and attacked the orb with its pincers, only for it to get stuck on the platform. Sonic used this opportunity to execute a homing attack on the green eye, making it roar out in pain and diving back into the magma. Then it jumped high into the air before diving at them, but the hedgehogs and fox quickly moved out of the way as it crashed into the platforms. "You guys watch out. Against something that large, you don't have a chance on the soft footholds," shouted Tails from a distance. Naruto threw another couple of kunai with explosive tags to bring down some more stalactites for them to use, but Iblis fired another volley of fireballs to destroy some of the new footholds. "It's trying to trap all of you in one place, you have to defeat this thing fast," said Kurama. Naruto thought deeply before getting an idea. He called out to Shadow, "Hey Shadow, I need you follow my lead." Shadow looked at him with a quirked eyebrow before nodding in affirmation. Shadow Clone Jutsu. He created 2 clones to immediately dashed forward and leapt out over the lava one after the other. Shadow looked confused for a second before realizing what the fox is aiming for. "I see, so he wants me to use my homing attack on his clones so that I can get across to the orb." He jumped off his foothold and attacked each of the clones as they disappeared in a puff of smoke before getting close enough to hit the purple orb and waited. When Iblis burst of the lava to attack, he performed a backflip and used a homing attack to strike the green eye once again. He was about to fall into the lava when he saw Naruto's clones jump towards and quickly used his homing attack to get onto a foothold. "Heh, you're not as tough as you look," said Shadow with a small smirk. Iblis appeared out of the lava and roared angrily before launching a volley of fireballs at the 3rd platform, which held the 3rd purple ad, destroyed it before charging recklessly at them, destroying the footholds in its way. The trio were leaping from platform to platform to avoid the rampaging monster, with Naruto felling more stalactites for them to use. "Guys, there's no more stalactites for me to bring down, at this rate it's gonna trap us in one place," shouted Naruto as he leapt to evade the charging monster. "But he destroyed the last purple orb, so he won't fall for the same trick thrice," said Sonic. "Come on Naruto, you've always been able to think outside the box in the middle of battle. You to do it again in this situation," said Kurama. Naruto was racking his brain for a plan that could somehow make Iblis stay in one place long enough for them to land a hit on it. Then he finally got one. He took out a paper tag from his ninja pouch, but the writings on it looked different from the explosive tags. "Hey guys, get ready to strike back." The hedgehogs looked confused for a moment before nodding in affirmation. Naruto landed on a platform and placed the paper tag on it before staying still for Iblis to turn to and charge at him again. "Get out of the way Naruto, it's coming," shouted Tails worriedly. Naruto waited until it got close enough before jumping back and forming a tiger hen sign to pulse his chakra, making the paper react and release a bright flash of light which completely caught Iblis unawares and leaving it dazed. "Now guys now." Sonic and Shadow moved in and performed a double homing attack on the green eye and somersaulted backwards, and Naruto followed soon after with a rasengan to send Iblis flying into the lava pool and not to resurface, signaling its defeat. The trio soon headed back to the others while Rouge flew over to take the Cyan Chaos Emerald without any problems this time. "Way to go Naruto, you sure pulled a good one out of that bag of tricks of yours, Sonic patted Naruto's back with a grin. I must say that I'm impressed with your skills, said Shadow walking up to Naruto with his arms crossed. Thanks guys, but all three of us took him down, said Naruto while rubbing the back of his head with a sheepish look on his face. Yeah, but I gotta say, you've got some serious moves under your belt, said Knuckles with Tails nodding in agreement. Rouge landed next to them with the Chaos Emerald in hand. Well, now that we have a second Chaos Emerald, let's get back to our time. She handed it over to Sonic and walked towards Shadow, though she winked at Naruto, causing him to look away with a pink tinge on his furry cheeks. Oh, does a certain knucklehead have an attraction? Said Kurama with mischievous grin. I have no idea what you're talking about, furball, shouted Naruto. Suyer, whatever floats your boat. Naruto cut off his connection to pay attention to what Sonic and Shadow were about to do. They crossed their Chaos Emeralds together and raised them to the air before calling out simultaneously, Chaos Control. Then a blue swirling portal appeared in midair. Let's go. Sonic jumped in, followed by Tails, Knuckles and then Rouge. Naruto was about to follow them when he suddenly sensed a familiar negative aura and turned to see Shadow in pursuit of the hedgehog who looks exactly like him. Kid, you better hurry, the portal is about to close, said Kurama. Naruto was currently confused, whether to jump in the portal and follow Sonic to rescue Princess Elise or stay behind to follow Shadow and hopefully get some answers from that Mafils who seems to play a role in all this. After thinking, he made his decision. In the middle of a street of present-day Solana, a blue swirling portal appeared and out fell Sonic, Tails and Knuckles. Looks like we made it back in one piece, said Knuckles as he looked around to make sure that they're back in the present. Yeah, but where did Shadow and Rouge go? I don't see Naruto here either, said Tails. The trio turned to look at the portal which was slowly closing, then at that moment an orange fox with 9 tails came through it and landed before them. Hey Naruto, you almost had us worried there for a second, said Sonic. Actually, I'm a clone. The boss decided to hang back at the future, said the clone, which surprised the others. Huh? But why would he do that? Asked Knuckles. Boss saw Shadow going after that doppelganger we saw earlier talking to Silver and decided to hang back to get some answers on what he possibly knows. Are you sure they'll be all right? Asked Tails. Don't worry, the boss will meet up with you guys later, said the clone. Okay then, we'll catch you later, said Sonic with a thumbs up. The Shadow clone nodded in affirmation before disappearing. While Naruto is doing his thing, let's find information that could help us locate where Eggman could have taken Elise. Then a newspaper which was floating in the wind hit his leg. Sonic picked it up to read it with Tails and Knuckles looking over his shoulder to read as well. Meanwhile in the future, Shadow had pursued Mafils all the way to the middle of a large rock platform surrounded with lava. There he saw Mafils standing on top of one of those strange trees. So you decided to void your return ticket? And it seems like you're not the only one, said Mafils. Shadow heard footsteps and turned around to see Naruto walking towards them, much to his surprise. What are you doing here? I wanted to get some answers from this guy. I have reasons to believe that he knows what happened to make the future end up like this, Naruto replied. And it's possible that he could be the cause from what we saw back at the facility, since he lied to those two about Sonic being the reason why the world was destroyed, said Kurama. That's part of the reason why I followed him as well, said Shadow. Then they turned to face Mafils, which leads me to ask, why are you here and if you ruin this world? The answer is yes and no, said Mafils. What is that supposed to mean? Get to the point, said Naruto. If you insist, then it's best that I show you. Mafils snapped his fingers. Then Naruto and Shadow saw a cage appear nearby, but it was who was inside the cage that shocked them. Inside the cage was. That's right, Shadow, it is you. What happened? Asked Naruto with narrowed eyes. After the world was devastated by Iblis flames, what do you think happened? A search for the guilty. What did this, you may ask? Humanity wasn't just jealous of your power, they feared it and used this incident as an excuse to hunt you down. People fear what they don't understand or can't control, thought Naruto, sadly remembering back how the people of the Hidden Leaf would treat him with anger and hatred, all because they thought he was the reincarnation of the nine-tailed fox. Kurama felt the same way, as he and the other tailed beasts were treated as weapons instead of beings of free will. But in the end, villagers finally acknowledged Naruto for who he truly is, and Kurama found true friendship in his host. They turned their attention back to Mafils, who continued to speak. "Come with me, Shadow, let us punish this world of humanity. It is only fair to give back what was intended for you, you have every right to want justice," said Mafils. "This guy is no different from Madara. He's trying to deceive Shadow and use him as a pawn to destroy the world," said Kurama angrily. "I know, just like how Madara tricked Obito. I just hope that Shadow makes the right decision," thought Naruto as he looked at Shadow. Shadow was silent for a moment before finally speaking. "That's absurd, whatever it is you want to do you can do it alone." Naruto and Kurama smiled at his refusal to fall into temptation. "So you forgive humanity this folly then?" Mafils pointed at the cage containing the future Shadow. "I decide my own destiny. Truer words can't be spoken, Shadow, no one can decide your path except yourself," said Naruto as he stood next to Shadow. Mafils could be heard growling in anger as purple light surrounded before fading to reveal him in a different appearance. His whole body is crystalline with no visible mouth, nose or feet, and was emitting a large purple aura. "Humph, such foolishness. Very well, let's see if you can entertain me." As he said that, a large number of dark creatures which bear resemblance to him except that their heads are triangular with a single eye on their face and two hands with claw-like fingers appeared behind him before charging forward. "Here they come, get ready, Shadow." Naruto took out his Hiraishin kunai while Shadow simply nodded before taking a stance. "I wonder how you will prevail." They heard a voice and looked down to see Mafils acting as Shadow's shadow and staring back at them. "How did he get there?" said Naruto. "More importantly, you two should focus on the incoming enemies," said Kurama. "Got it. Shadow Clone Jutsu." Naruto summoned a large number of clones who immediately charged at the shadows along with Naruto himself. He started slashing left and right as the shadows faded away in smoke, with several charging in to take their place. He slammed an explosive tag on the ground and quickly backflipped to evade the converging enemies before releasing a pulse of chakra for the tag to activate as it exploded and took a majority of the shadows out. Swift release, bladed. Shadow dance. The shadows began to disappear as he was zipping around and taking them down before they could even react. Suddenly he heard an explosion and a memory of a clone flowed into his mind. He looked through the memory before calling out to Shadow, "Heads up, Shadow. Don't let any of those shadows get a hold of you. They turn into makeshift bombs when they grab you." No sooner he said that did he throw the Hiraishin kunai into the air before disappearing in a flash to avoid a cluster of the shadows that tried to pile on him. He reappeared in the air to grab the Hiraishin kunai and formed a rasengan with his free hand as he dived back to the ground and rammed it into his opponents. "Understood," said Shadow as he was using his homing attack to take down the shadows approaching him. He saw the shadows converging towards him and quickly reacted to them. He pressed a hand against the ground while holding himself and his body up before proceeding to spin around in a 360-degree circle that almost seems like he was breakdancing to take down the shadows before landing back on the ground. He reared his hand back as yellow electricity appeared on his hands, Chaos Spear, then threw a volley of arrow-shaped energy at some of the shadows which left them paralyzed and quickly used his homing attack to take them out. "It doesn't matter how many you defeat, you know." Mafils sneered from within the shadow. "I have to find a way to draw him out of the shadows," thought Shadow as he continued to fight back the shadows who were still attacking him. "Shadow," he turned his attention to Naruto, who had just used a rasengan to blow the enemies away from him before turned towards him. "We need to flush out Mafils and take him down since he must be the one controlling the shadows." "I know, and I have an idea how to do so," said Shadow. Mafils scoffed at what he heard. "It's useless, I'm your shadow. There's no way you can touch me." "We'll see about that." Chaos Boost. Shadow's body began to emit a red aura of chaos energy had such intensity that it forced Mafils out of his shadow much to his shock and also made the shadows recoil in fear. Amazing, said Naruto as he watched Shadow emit such power. I can sense a portion of his sealed power being released, now's our chance to attack Mafils, said Kurama. What? How could you do this? Mafils was in disbelief. Shadow simply smirked, then the shadows swarmed around him again to attack. Chaos Blast. He charged the chaos energy inside his body before releasing in a form of an explosion, taking down a lot of shadows within a 10-yard radius. He jumped into the air and took aim at Mafils' Chaos Lance, then fired a long red bolt which struck, causing him to cry out in pain and tried move but couldn't as his body was crackling with electricity to signify that he was paralyzed. Shadow didn't miss a beat as he quickly followed it up with a chaos attack and knocked him back. DMNU Shadow. Mafils yelled in outrage as he raised his hands in the air and a purple ball of energy formed and was growing in size. Take this, he was about to throw it when he heard a voice from behind him. He's not the only one you should pay attention to. He turned around to see Naruto diving towards him with a blue spinning ball of energy in his hand, Rasengan. He slammed his attack into Mafils' chst which sent him crashing to the ground. He got up from the ground and looked up to see Naruto charging straight at him while twirling a large windmill shuriken in his hand, Demon Windmill Shuriken, then he threw it straight at Mafils. As if that will harm me. Mafils was about to sidestep out of the way when the shuriken puffed into smoke much to his surprise to reveal Naruto right in front of him with his fist reared back. Surprise surprise, he slammed his fist under Mafils' chin which launched him upwards into the air before crossing his middle and index fingers together. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 3 of his clones appeared before jumping after Mafils, with 2 grabbing his arms and slamming him to the ground and a 3rd driving his knee into his gut before they dispelled. Naruto was about to attack again when the shadows appeared to engage. Leave him to me, said Shadow as he skated towards Mafils who was about to fire a purple orb at Naruto. A few shadows moved in to intercept the black hedgehog much to their error. Chaos Snap, then he disappeared from their sight only to reappear before one of them and take it out with a kick. He warped again to another one and attacked again until he appeared before Mafils and dealt him a powerful punch to send him crashing to the ground again. When Shadow landed on the ground, the red aura faded away as he felt his power being sealed once more before approaching Mafils to interrogate him again. Suddenly Mafils got up and shot a purple orb, knocking Shadow into a tree to incapacitate him before he proceeded towards him. Shadow. Naruto punched one of the shadows away and was about to move in to help the black hedgehog, when a barrage of bullets came in between Shadow and Mafils. They all turned to see a robot with an arm cannon standing in the distance. It's humanoid in shape with a stocky upper body and arms with claws for hands and yellow wrists studded with spikes like a dog collar. It has a color scheme of red, black, yellow, green, silver and gray. What is noted is the red visible Greek symbol on the front of the left and the back of the right shoulder, plus the silver stripe running from the head to the stomach. Omega, said Shadow in surprise. The now identified Omega retracted his arm cannon and brought out his clawed fingers. Now is the designated time, I shall assist. He's a friend of yours, Shadow? And what does he mean by that? Asked Naruto. He's my partner, Rouge, and I found him back at the city but he was in standby mode, said Shadow as he got back to his feet. Shadow, Rouge sent me to assist you, said Omega as he walked up to them before taking a glance at Naruto. Creature unknown, energy signature unknown. Alignment requested. What is he talking about? Asked Naruto confusedly. I think he's trying to find out if we're his enemies or allies, said Kurama. Stand down Omega, his name is Naruto and he's on our side, said Shadow. Confirmed, creature identified as Naruto the nine-tailed fox. Alignment, ally, said Omega before turning to face Mafils who had summoned more of his minions to attack them. Incoming hostiles, firing Omega shot. Omega's right forearm retracted and brought out a gun barrel, then he took aim at the shadows and fired a spray of yellow pellets, destroying them completely. Whoa, I'm pretty sure that Tenten would want to take this guy home with her, thought Naruto with wonder. Stay focused kid, we need to take down Mafils, said Kurama. Got it. Naruto took a stance with Shadow doing the same before charging at Mafils. The shadows stood in their way and tried to grab them, but Naruto leapt forward with his claws out, Fox Flurry. He proceeded to slash rapidly through them before finishing it up with a cross slash which took a majority out. A swarm of shadows were heading towards Omega with a pincer attack to catch him off guard. Activating lock-on shot, the robot started charging energy to his left forearm as gun barrels opened up with orange auras emitting from them. From Omega's point of view, multiple crosshairs appeared on the shadows and beeped to signal that the targets have been locked on. Firing, then a barrage of orange lasers shot out of the gun barrels and homed in on the targets, destroying them completely. Switching to rapid fire, he proceeded to shoot volleys of bullets at the remaining shadows. Chaos Spear. Shadow threw another projectile at Mafils, who was darting left and right to evade the attacks, and responded in kind with purple orbs which Shadow avoided by skating around quickly with his hover shoes. Mafils raised his hands to the air as a purple orb appeared and grew larger with each passing second. Take this and perish Shadow, then he threw straight Shadow. Shadow stood ready as the purple orb quickly closed in towards his location. As the very last second he called out, Chaos Control. He disappeared much to Mafil's shock before reappearing and slamming a roundhouse kick on his back, sending him flying forward towards the ground. He was about to crash when he saw a tri-pronged knife hit the ground before there was a yellow flash to reveal Naruto standing there with his fist reared back. Chew on this, then he moved it forward to slam haymaker punch to send Mafils bouncing along the ground before skidding to a stop. At the same time the shadows disappeared without a trace. Shadow and Omega came and stood by Naruto as they watched Mafil struggle to his feet and glare at them with hatred. Then he raised a hand to form a purple orb which made them tense for an attack, but then he jumped into the orb and disappeared. Mafils! Shadow shouted before racing towards the orb with Omega close behind. Don't let him escape. Naruto joined the pursuit as they all jumped into the orb before it disappears. The trio exited from the orb and looked around to notice that they're back in present and are currently in New City. However, they couldn't find any trace of Mafils. It appears Mafils is no longer here. I will assist in pursuing him, said Omega, to which Shadow nodded in affirmation. I'm coming along as well. I get the feeling that I won't be able to find Sonic and the others in the city right now, said Naruto. Especially since they've obviously gone to search for the princess, said Kurama. Very well then. At that moment, Shadow's wrist communicator started to beep before he pressed a button and a male voice is heard. Agent Shadow, we've lost contact with Agent Rouge. Head to the warehouse district immediately. Understood, we'll be heading over immediately, said Shadow before cutting of the link. Then they quickly moved towards the warehouse district where Naruto had gone before with Sonic and were looking around for Rouge when they heard someone call out to them from behind. Hi, looks like you also brought Foxy along with you. They turned around to see Rouge approaching them with an airy wave. It looks like Eggman's machine are looking for you, Shadow. What did you do this time? Nothing, their target is probably Mafils, said Shadow. Makes sense since he's currently taking on your form, so those mechs would mistake you for him, said Naruto. What is Eggman up to? Who is Mafils? Asked Omega. I'm gonna ask him directly. Shadow started to walk away from them. Hey, wait a sec, said Rouge. I can handle this alone while you keep track, you Mafils. Well, I'm tagging along, Shadow. Eggman still has the princess in his custody and I'll be sure to meet up with Sonic along the way, said Naruto. Shadow stood there and gave him a curt nod before resuming his walk. If both of you are looking for Dr. Eggman, intel tells me that he's currently traveling by train to his hidden base, said Rouge. In that case, I got to get to the station. Shadow skated off and then Naruto turned to Rouge and Omega. I wish you two luck, said Naruto before running after Shadow. You too, Foxy, said Rouge. Then she tapped on her wrist communicator. This is Rouge, I need all available data on an item called the Scepter of Darkness. Meanwhile, Naruto had caught up with Shadow and they both reached the train station and entered it to find another mirror displaying the image of a moving train before jumping inside. Then they exited out of the void tunnel and found themselves standing on a platform next to a set of rails in a mountainous area, and they could barely see the bottom of the mountain. "Now that we're here, how will we know which train Eggman will be on?" said Naruto as he looked around. Shadow was about to answer when they heard a blare of a horn and turned to see a locomotive passing by while pulling several metal containers along the rails. Shadow's eyes narrowed upon seeing a certain red logo on the train. "That's the doctor's train that just passed us, we have to destroy it so it doesn't get away," said Shadow. "Got it, let's go," said Naruto as he got ready to run. Naruto and Shadow dashed after the train and were currently running at the right side of the rails. Eggman must have seen them coming as they heard his voice through a loudspeaker. "You are just wasting your time. You're never going to catch me," said Eggman with an arrogant tone, then he deployed several squads of mechs to intercept them. They dashed to the broken end of the platform and bounced off a spring to the other side where a squad of gunners and flyers appeared before them along with a new one that they haven't seen before. This one was flying at first, but when it descended to the ground, it proceeded to shift into a form with large legs with drills on its feet, lasers on the arms and a cannon at the front. This new mech fired lasers from its arms, forcing Naruto and Shadow to move out of the way. Naruto dashed forward and formed a rasengan before slamming it into one of its legs, causing it to lose its balance. Shadow lunged forward as he jumped into the air towards its back and used his homing attack to destroy the core, causing it to explode. Then they went ahead to engage the flyers and gunners quickly as the train was slowly getting ahead. They located another spring and bounced off it into several more until they went over to left side of the train and were ahead of it. There was another squad of mechs waiting for them, so Naruto created some shadow clones to engage them while they tried to find a way to stop the train. "There has to be some way to stop the train so that we can destroy it," said Shadow. Then Naruto saw something nearby and pointed at it. "What's that over there?" Shadow turned to look at where he was pointing and saw a floating white ball with a yellow star in it, and it was floating above a round metallic plate with red edge. "That's a ball SWCH, activating it should erect a barrier that will stop the train." Shadow dashed towards the SWCH and pressed it, then red lasers appeared across the rails just as the train was approaching, forcing it to halt. They heard Eggman's voice, which was full of irritation, through the speaker. "The barrier is stopping me. Hurry up and take down the barrier. Now's our chance." Fox Flurry. Naruto lunged forward with his claws extended and his time covered in chakra. Chaos Attack. Shadow was close behind as he leapt into the air towards the train. The train was getting inflicted with claw marks and dents, but Eggman finally managed to disable the barrier and was on the move again. "Now that the barrier's down, I'll be seeing you losers later." "Farewell," said Eggman arrogantly. "Quickly, let's get ahead of him and butt up another barrier," said Shadow, to which Naruto nodded in affirmation. A nearby metal gate opened up for them to pass through, then they stepped on a dash panel which sped them through a loop to the other side where they launched off a dash ramp to land on a platform next to a wooden building where they could see sets of conveyor belts. "You better be careful, Naruto, those things seem to change directions at any time," said Kurama. "Got it," said Naruto. Naruto and Shadow quickly made their way through the conveyor belts while making sure not to fall off until making it to the top of the wooden building. Before them were several scales that led to another platform ahead. "These scales look fragile, we better run across it," said Shadow. Then they heard a blare of the horn signaling that the train is coming. "And fast, the train's almost here," said Naruto. The duo stepped on one of the scales with one side sinking and the other rising, but they jumped to the other one before getting to another set of scales until they finally gotten to the next area. There Naruto and Shadow found another ball SWCH to activate the barrier, however it was locked in a cage similar to the one Naruto found back at the desert with the mechs guarding it. "If it is similar to the one from before, then it means that you have to take out all the enemies for that cage to open," said Kurama. Naruto nodded in affirmation as he took out a handful of kunai before wrapping some explosive tags around their handles, then he dashed towards on the walker mech which fired its guns at him. Swift release, shadow dance, He sped forward as he evaded the gunfire before he got between the walker's legs and stabbed them with the kunai, then he jumped away and set off the tags to explode, which destroyed before finishing up with a rasengan aiming at the head. Naruto turned around to see Shadow defeating the last of the mechs with a homing attack which opened the cage. Naruto touched to ball SWCH to put up another one, stopping the train in its tracks. This again. Looks like I have to take down this barrier as well, said Eggman. Once again, Naruto and Shadow attacked the train with their individual attacks, further damaging it. But Eggman had managed to take down the barrier much quicker than before, and the train was on the move again and entered through a tunnel in the mountain. This time there are no more barriers from here on, so see you losers later. DMN. Now how can we stop the train? Naruto spoke with a frown. I have an idea, follow me, said Shadow as he bounced off a spring and went into a mine tunnel. Naruto looked confused for a moment but decided to follow as he also stepped on the spring to go after him. Meanwhile the train had exited out of the tunnel and was currently moving along the tracks towards the hidden base. Eggman was sitting before the control panel with an arrogant smirk on his face. He could tell that neither Shadow nor that fox who was beginning to annoy him were anywhere with his sight ever since he passed through the tunnel. That ought to teach those two not to mess with me, said Eggman. At that moment one of his screens started to beep loudly. Doctor, we have vehicle which is currently pursuing the train, said the AI of the computer system. Put it on display. A screen lit up for Eggman to watch, his eyebrows raised up in surprise before he started to growl in anger at who was pursuing him behind the vehicle. Deploy all units. Keep them away from the train. Eggman pressed a button on the control panel to activate the mechs. Outside the train, an open-topped motor vehicle, buggy, was slowly catching up with Shadow behind the wheel and Naruto, who was standing at the back, manning a gun turret. It's a good thing we found this in the mine tunnel, said Naruto. Aim for the cargoes for us to get closer to the train before disabling it as well, said Shadow. Got it, said Naruto. Then they saw several of Eggman's mechs approaching the buggy. Not before we take care of the receptionists. Following the instructions given to him by Shadow, Naruto aimed the turret at incoming fleet of flyers who were approaching from the left and pulled the trigger to release a rapid fire of bullets upon them. Most of the mechs tried to dodge the gunfire but were shot down as Shadow swerved the vehicle to avoid the wreckage and continued to catch up with the train. When they got close enough, Naruto took aim at the first cargo and fired. Before long it exploded after being pelted with bullets, but the turret let out a hissing sound and emitted steam while feeling hot. What happened? Asked Naruto as he looked at the gun confusedly. The gun overheated. It's best that you wait until it cools down. Afterwards I suggest that you use short bursts to avoid overheating again, said Shadow, swerving to evade the parts of the destroyed cargo. While he waited for the gun turret to cool down, Naruto took to using chakra-enhanced shuriken to take down the pursuing flyers, which was until a walker in flight mode appeared from behind them. He threw his shuriken at it but they only scratched the armor and fell off, much to his ire. Kit, I think the turret has totally cooled down so you can use it now, said Kurama. Naruto moved to the turret but he saw that the walker was beginning to open fire. Shadow, watch out. The mech is about to shoot at us. Shadow could see from the rearview mirror as he turned the wheel to make the buggy take evasive maneuvers to avoid the gunfire. However, he couldn't dodge all of them as some of the shots struck parts of the buggy and Naruto used a kunai to deflect some. He aimed the gun turret at the walker, opened fire at him in short bursts. The walker suffered some damage from the rapid fire before retaliating with missiles. Naruto aimed at the incoming projectiles and quickly shot them down before resuming his attack on the mech. Suffering from critical damage, the walker dive-bombed at them with its drills rotating. Oh no, you don't. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Naruto created a pair of shadow clones who leapt off the buggy and towards the walker. The clones held their hands close as they formed the giant ball rasengan which they used to slam into the mech, which resulted in an explosion. Naruto turned the turret on the next cargo and fired, destroying it as well and finally revealing the train. Aim for the wheels, said Shadow. Gotcha. Naruto shot at the left wheel and soon focused on the right as well. Then the train started to skid on the rails before slowing to a stop. Shadow stopped the buggy beside it and they got off before walking towards the steel door at the back. Naruto took out kunai which he channeled wind chakra through before slashing the door open, then they walked inside to find Dr. Eggman sitting on a revolving chair with his back to them. Couldn't you have been gentler with the door? He swiveled around to look at them. So what is it you want? Shadow stepped forward. Who is Mafils? And why you trying to capture him? What is this guy up to? First he goes after Princess to attain the flames of disaster, and now he's after Mafils for who knows what, thought Naruto. It might be possible that those two are related, said Kurama. If you want to know, should go find him yourself. But here's a hint, it's all linked to the Solana disaster 10 years ago, said Eggman. The Solaris Project, said Shadow. Solaris Project? Asked Naruto who looked confused. 10 years ago, the Duke of Solana was the driving force behind a research project whose purpose was unknown to the outside world. However, a great disaster occurred which took the lives of the researchers and the Duke himself. Could it be possible that both Mafils and Iblis originated from this so-called disaster, thought Naruto. There's no doubt about it, said Kurama. If you want to know the truth about Solaris, you must capture Mafils and bring him to me, said Eggman. You're obviously lying, that stunt you pulled back then on me and the others shows that you'll definitely go back on the deal, thought Naruto with a frown. Shadow remained silent as he turned and walked away. Naruto continued to look at Eggman who turned his attention to him. What is it you want, Fox? Asked Eggman. You're not really here, are you? Said Naruto. At those words, an arrogant smile crossed the doctor's lips. Guess you're not as gullible as I thought. How did you know? Because I don't sense anything coming from you. Where's the princess? Said Naruto with a frown. Do you really think that I'll tell you? Good luck finding her yourself. Then the Eggman sitting before him disappeared in a flicker of light, showing that he was nothing but a hologram. Naruto clenched his fists tightly as he growled in anger at this and quickly turned to run out of the train. He got out and noticed that Shadow was gone. Where did Shadow go? Said Naruto. He must have gone after Mafils, but I don't think he'll bring him to Eggman though, said Kurama. What do you mean by that? I can tell that Shadow had dealt with Eggman before, so this won't be new to him. Okay then, but how can I search for Sonic or the princess? Asked Naruto as he sped through the area. You should be able to use Sage Mode now. I've fixed more of your chakra coils. Just a little more and you'll be back up to a 100% and access the higher levels of your power. Thanks for the info. Naruto trailed off as he skidded to a stop upon seeing someone standing before him. Someone familiar, Nico? The said person turned around and looked at Naruto with a frown. Naruto, for the sake of the future, I will defeat you to prevent you from aiding the Iblis trigger who will destroy our world. Blaze lit up her claws in flames before charging at Naruto who stood there stunned. The only thought which came into his mind was, what? Naruto quickly ducked a fiery swipe before performing several backflips to build some distance from his current opponent whom he has no intention of fighting. Nico, stop this. Why are you attacking me? Said Naruto who was taking a defensive stance. I'm sorry Naruto, but I must defeat you if you continue to aid the Iblis trigger. For the sake of the future, said Blaze as her claws were still lit in flames. What do you mean by that? Who told you something like this? Asked Naruto although he had an inkling as to who told her and probably Silver. Mafils told us about you and the blue hedgehog. Said Blaze. Flashback start. Blaze and Silver were walking along the streets of New City in Solana. They had gone to Eggman's base over at White Acropolis in search of Sonic only to find that he wasn't there though they found a blue Chaos Emerald which Blaze told Silver to keep it as a lucky charm. They were on their way searching for information of the hedgehog's whereabouts when they ran into a familiar figure ahead them. Mafils, said Silver. The said person showed no reaction but it was obvious that he was listening. I need to ask, who is the Iblis trigger and why does he want to destroy the world? Why does that matter to you? said Mafils, unless you complete your task, your future will remain the same, forever. The duo remained silent, unable to reply to his words. He's currently at the terminal station, it's now or never if you want this. Okay then Mafils, we'll be on our way then. Silver was about to leave with Blaze when Mafils spoke up again. I must warn you that the Iblis trigger isn't working alone, he's being helped by an accomplice. Who is this person we should look out for? Asked Silver. I do not know his name, but be on the lookout for an orange fox with 9 tails. Blaze's eyes widened in shock as she instantly recognized whom he was talking about. Naruto is helping the Iblis trigger. But how could this be, she thought. Got it, we'll be on our way to the train station. Blaze, let's go, said Silver before running off. Blaze snapped out of her musings and ran after him. Okay, I'm coming. Flashback end. Upon arriving, Silver and I split up as he went after the blue hedgehog while I was waiting for you to appear. I was hoping that what Mafils said wasn't true, but seeing you here has proven otherwise, said Blaze as she shook her head in disappointment. Naruto clenched his fist in anger upon what he heard. That no good liar, I ought to shove a rasengan down his throat. He must have deceived them again after escaping from our fight back in the future, said Kurama with a growl of anger. That's the only possibility we can think of, thought Naruto before turning his attention to Blaze. Nico, I need you to listen to me, Sonic and I are not the enemy here. We're trying to prevent the flames of disaster from being unleashed, said Naruto. Blaze was surprised to hear that, but the look of seriousness reappeared on her face. As much as it surprises me that you're working to prevent Iblis from ever being unleashed, I'm not willing to take the risk of the chance that you might release the flames in your attempt to stop it. To prevent that, I must defeat you, said Blaze before she retook her fighting stance. What? But Nico Naruto tried to explain. I don't think she'll listen to us, Naruto, we'll have to fight her like it or not, said Kurama. But she's not the enemy here, Kurama, thought Naruto, still not wanting to fight Blaze. I know, but with her wanting to change the future and Mafil's deception, she won't believe us so easily. Naruto let out a sigh of resignation before he faced Blaze and reluctantly took his fighting stance, which made her tense a bit. I can understand why you're doing this, Nico, but this leaves me with no other choice but to fight you. Very well then, said Blaze. Then they charged at each other to engage in combat. Naruto launched a straight punch, but Blaze sidestepped to the right and responded with a low sweeping kick. Naruto performed a front flip to evade the kick and moved away to create some distance. Naruto crossed his middle and index fingers and called out on his signature jutsu. Shadow Clone Jutsu. Several copies appeared next to him and quickly moved in to surround Blaze, who looked stunned to see such a technique. Then they all attacked simultaneously from all directions with fists reared back to punch. Blaze snapped out of her shock as she stood on the tip of her right foot with her arms spread out and proceeded to spin around rapidly while releasing flames from her body to create a fiery tornado and moving around to attack. Spinning claw, the clones made contact with the flames and were sent flying from attack and disappeared in puffs of smoke. Then Blaze stopped her spin and leapt into the air and spin again horizontally with her right claw forward like a flaming drill. Fire claw. Naruto dashed to the side to get out of the way, but his eyes widened in shock upon seeing Blaze change direction and still stayed on him. Swift release, shadow dance. Naruto sped away quickly enough to leave behind an afterimage which Blaze passed through and landed on her feet. Then she suddenly heard a voice call out right in front of her, "No." A shadow clone was sliding towards her with a leg reared back, and he wasn't the only one, as 3 more were sliding towards her. From different angles in the same position, they lashed out with their feet and kicked Blaze into the air before she could put up any kind of defense. At the peak of her height, Blaze looked up to see Naruto descending with a heel raised in the air ready to bring it down on her. Uzumaki barrage. Axle tornado. Blaze recovered in midair and proceeded to twirl rapidly while releasing hot flames around her to form a fiery tornado, and the flames burst from under her feet as she propelled herself towards Naruto. It was now the fox's turn to not be able to put a defense as he got hit by the flaming attack and crashed to the ground. He heard Blaze diving towards him with her claws covered in flames and quickly stood up while channeling chakra to his claws as the blue energy coated them before elongating to appear larger. Kitsune claws. He raised his claws to block the incoming attack. They struggled for demps before jumping away from each other before charging in once again to engage in close combat. Naruto was attacking and evading as he used his Kitsune style against Blaze, who was attacking and evading in kind with graceful movements almost as if she was dancing. Man, she's pretty good, thought Naruto as he dashed to left while on all fours to dodge a fiery kick from Blaze. I must admit that she's very strong in her own right. Matatabi would have taken a liking to her, said Kurama. Maybe so, but we can't afford to lose because of Mafil's deceit. Naruto stopped the flow of chakra to his left hand in order to reach into his pouch and took out a Hiroshin kunai. Then he charged at Blaze and lashed out with a slash but twirled out of the way and responded with a low leg sweep which he avoided with a backflip and used his tails to wound around her leg before using the momentum to throw her. Blaze recovered in midair, then ignited a continuous stream of fire under her feet as she descended and took a defensive stance. Naruto launched an uppercut with the kunai, but Blaze used a palm to deflect it. Suddenly he let go of the kunai, which sent it flying into the air. He quickly retreated and created a couple of clones to attack. Not this again, spinning claw. Blaze spun around once again, forming the fiery tornado, and the clones were knocked back. When Blaze stopped spinning, she noticed a growing shadow at her feet and looked up to see Naruto diving towards her with a blue spinning sphere being held on a palm. What kind of attack is that? I better not let it hit me. She immediately dashed out of his range when Naruto used his other hand to throw a familiar kunai at her. Blaze sidestepped to evade the incoming projectile and saw Naruto about to hit the ground when, to her shock, that he disappeared in a yellow flash and then reappeared right in front of her. Sorry about this, Nico, Rasengan. Naruto rammed a slightly depowered Rasengan into Blaze with the force sending her flying into a cliff wall before collapsing to the ground, but didn't get back up immediately. Naruto walked over to Blaze and looked at her apologetically. I'm really sorry about this, Blaze, but Mafils has been lying to you all along. Sonic is not the Iblis trigger. Blaze looked up to Naruto. What makes you so sure that what you're saying is the truth? All this time, Sonic and I have been working to rescue Princess Elise from Dr. Eggman, who seeks to use the flames of disaster, or what you call Iblis, for his ambitions. If Mafils really wanted to help you save your future, why didn't he tell you about Eggman then? Blaze thought back on what Naruto said and noticed that he raised a good point. She had been seeing the robots moving around everywhere she went as if in search of something and would attack anyone that gets in their way. Then if so, why would he lie to us about Sonic being the Iblis trigger, and what would he be up to? Asked Blaze. Mafils knew that Sonic would try to stop Eggman from getting his hands on the flames of disaster, and so he lied to you and your friend Silver to prevent that, but I don't know what he's after exactly. Blaze was silent for a while, which had Naruto worry a bit that she didn't believe him. Then he heard her finally speak up. I don't know if I should believe you, but I'm willing to give you the benefit of the doubt. I'll try to find out if what you're saying is the truth. Thanks, I really didn't like fighting you like this. It didn't feel right, said Naruto. Suddenly they both heard a loud whirring sound like that of an aircraft. That must be one of Eggman's robots. He must be near here. Are you going to be okay, Nico? Don't worry about me, I should be able to recover from that attack of yours. I could tell that it wasn't at full power but enough to knock me down. So you go on ahead while I return to Solana. Okay, please be careful. Naruto turned and ran in direction of where the sound was coming from in hopes of locating Sonic or the princess there. If what Naruto said was true, then I wonder how Silver will change his mind. He can be very stubborn once he sets a goal for himself, Blaze mused to herself. Meanwhile, in a train yard, Silver was facing down whom he believes to be Mafils, but the strange thing is that this hedgehog had red stripes instead of gray and wore golden rings and called himself Shadow the Hedgehog. Silver had found Sonic earlier before along with the princess and was about to finish him off when Shadow appeared to interrupt, giving Sonic the opportunity to run off, much to his annoyance. They engaged each other in a battle of chaos powers and psychokinesis and were soon facing each in a state of exhaustion. Wrath. Silver reared a fist back and charged forward to punch Shadow. Shadow took out a green Chaos Emerald and called out, "Chaos Control." The emerald pulsed with power and everything from his perspective slowed down including Silver. Then he moved around the white hedgehog and performed a roundhouse kick on the back of his head to knock him to the ground. Silver got back up and glared at Shadow. "You don't bother. With a Chaos Emerald's power, I control time and space. You can't break free from it," said Shadow in a matter-of-fact tone. "No. I refuse to give up. I can't lose when there's so much at stake, especially when I'm so close to fulfilling my goal." Silver took out a blue Chaos Emerald and charged at Shadow, who responded in kind. They both stepped around the other and held out their Chaos Emeralds with their hands making contact while calling out at the same time. "Chaos Control, /Chaos Control." This action resulted in a time-space rift opening up between them before jumping back in surprise. "You induced a Chaos Control," said Shadow. "There's no way that I'm going to let anyone get in my way. I'll definitely change the past and save the world so that everyone can be happy," said Silver, looking determined. Shadow simply shook his head at the hedgehog's naivety. "Mafils isn't trying to help you create a better future, he's trying to eliminate the past." "What? What are you talking about?" asked Silver confusedly. "I had met Mafils before and he only revealed a part of what he really knows, and the same could be said for you. If we wish to know what really happened, it seems we must see what exactly took place 10 years ago. Follow me if you want to know the truth." Shadow leapt into the rift, but Silver looked hesitant to follow and was deep in thought. Could it be that Mafils was lying? That I was going about this the wrong way? I think I'll find the answers if I witness what really happened back then. Instead of being told about it, Silver made up his mind and leapt into the rift before it disappeared. Naruto was currently running in between the mountains in search of the robots which could possibly have an affiliation to Eggman. From the sounds of it, it must be a very large one. Now where could it be? Naruto suddenly heard an explosion coming from the west side of his position and immediately changed directions towards it. He knew that he was getting closer as the whirring sound was getting much louder. He ran around a mountain and come upon what he was looking for. It was a giant flying robot fortress with 4 massive arms with inbuilt missile launchers, searchlights, and who knows what else Eggman might have built into the thing, though he took note of the glowing orange pod-like core located at its undercarriage. "Looks like the doctor is not playing around," Naruto mused. "Naruto." He traced the voice to see Princess Elise hiding behind a large boulder away from the robot. He quickly ran over to see if she was okay. "Princess Elise, I'm glad to see that you're all right. Sonic told me what happened and that you would soon come to help us again. Eggman was taking me to a hidden base by train, but Sonic rescued me. However, that silver hedgehog showed up again to attack Sonic and I was recaptured by Eggman, but I managed to escape and now that giant robot is after us," said Elise. "Looks like I wasn't the only one keeping busy. I'll go and help Sonic wreck this robot so that we can get you out of here," said Naruto before running towards the battlefield where he saw Sonic running around it. "Yo Sonic!" Naruto called out to his fellow speedster. Said Hedgehog turned and smirked upon seeing Naruto running towards him. "Hey Naruto, guess you're done with your detour," said Sonic. "Pretty much, now let's take down another toy of Eggman's." "You got it." Above them in the air was Eggman in his egg mobile glaring at Naruto who had arrived to help Sonic. "Not him again, he's just as annoying as Sonic." "No matter, my egg genesis should be able to take care of them, then I can get my hands on the flames of disaster." The egg genesis rose to the air and locked its arms in a vertical position. Several compartments opened up and missiles shot out of them and headed straight towards Naruto and Sonic. "Whoa, incoming!" Naruto and Sonic took off with the missiles pursuing them, and they weren't the only ones as several volleys having been launched from the other arms and targeting them. Sonic darted left and right to evade the missiles before they hit the ground and exploded. The same could be said for Naruto, who used the shadow dance to dodge, then would throw several chakra-enhanced shurikens at them to be destroyed. The egg genesis descended to the ground while spreading its arms diagonally and opened up at the ends as a squad of egg flyers came out and proceeded to open fire on the fox and hedgehog. Sonic evaded the gunfire and was making his way to attack the robots when he suddenly came upon a good idea. He leapt into the air and used his homing attack on the egg flyers as stepping stones and landed on one of the arms before proceeding to run towards the robot's head. "Why, you little, upper cannons, open fire. Shoot him down," Eggman called out. Gun turrets appeared from both sides of the robots and were shooting at Sonic. He darted left and right until he got close enough to jump on top of the head. There he jumped into the air and curled up into a ball before performing a downward spin attack which bounced him back into the air, and he attacked again. The damage to the head caused an electric surge through one of the arms to detach from the main body and explode. Sonic quickly leapt off the egg Genesis before it took to the air. "Good one, Sonic, allow me to take a turn," said Naruto, who was cutting down the remaining egg flyers by flashing around and destroying them with his Hiraishin kunai. He noticed a bright circle moving along the ground until it reached him. He looked up to see one of the searchlights aiming at him. Naruto noticed that light was being concentrated at the center and was glowing brighter. Instinct screamed at him to move, and he did so just in time to evade an orange laser which trailed, but he had ran out of its range. Naruto saw the egg Genesis descend towards the ground once again to release another battalion of mechs, but this time they were the egg gunners. He threw his Hiraishin kunai at one of them before flashing over to it and grabbed to throw it at another until landing on top of another arm of the egg Genesis. Naruto dashed towards the head and created a shadow clone who ahead and turned to face the original with his hands cupped together. Naruto stepped on it and was launched into the air above the robot's head. There he created another shadow clone and together held their hands close as they formed the giant ball rasengan before diving in and ramming on top of the head, which caused another surge to destroy another robot arm. "Only 2 more arms to go, Naruto," shouted Sonic while evading a salvo of missiles from the remaining arms of the egg Genesis. "Begin charging core laser." "Take this, Sonic," shouted Eggman. The orange pod-like core located at the undercarriage of the flying fortress glowed with energy before firing an orange laser straight at Sonic. "Whoa there!" Sonic dashed to the right just before the laser hit where he once stood, leaving behind a large crater. "You might want to work on your robot's aim, Eggman. Perhaps a few more conks to the head would do the trick." Naruto landed nearby and called out to him, "Not anymore. The robot withdrew its head and my attacks aren't inflicting any more than a dent." Sonic looked back at the egg Genesis until his eyes settled on the core. "Then let's aim for the core underneath it, that should do the trick." "Got it." Naruto then noticed that the core was charging up again for another laser shot and currently targeting them. He reached into his ninja pouch and took out a black pellet before throwing it onto the ground, which produced a thick cloud of smoke. The core fired its laser, which pierced through, and it was clear that its intended targets were nowhere near the laser's trajectory. The alarm systems of the egg Genesis blared out before another of the arms broke off and exploded, and a blue blur sped away from under its shadow to reveal that it was the blue hedgehog who was responsible for what had just occurred. The scanners had picked up the location of the orange fox with 9 tails. It locked on to the second target and was about to launch another salvo of missiles from the remaining arm when the fox placed its hands together to form a strange sign. Then large numbers of explosions happened around the arm, completely destroying it. "What? This can't be." "Egg Genesis, take to the sky and fire your core laser at maximum power," yelled Dr. Eggman. The damaged robot complied with its MSTR's orders and proceeded to ascend while its core was glowing brightly with energy. "Looks like Eggman is going for broke with this incoming attack," said Sonic. "Then it's time for the coup de grace," said Naruto. "You got something that can reach it that high?" "Yeah, but all I can say is that you might want to get behind some cover." Naruto created a pair of shadow clones and they proceeded to work on a rasengan. Sonic noted that this one differed from the ones which Naruto had been using so far, as 4 large white points resembling throwing stars swirled around the core and was giving off a loud screeching noise. "Wind style, Raisin Shuriken." Naruto called out, then his shadow clone took a hold of it and flashed over to a paper tag bearing the Hiraishin seal placed on the robot's head. The clone rammed the infused variation of the rasengan on the egg Genesis. Naruto and Sonic quickly ran over to where Princess Elise was hiding and took cover. When it collided with its target, the spiraling sphere detonated to unleash a vortex of wind which swallowed the entire robot with its parts continuously being shredded by the cutting power of the wind. The egg genesis completely shut down from taking massive damage and crashed to the ground before exploding. Sonic peeked from behind the boulder to look at burning bits of the robot and whistled, "Whoa, that's some serious wind power, too bad it can't be used for flying kites." "That was so powerful," said Elise in awe. "Yeah, but let's get out of here. I'm pretty sure that our battle was to give Eggman time to call on his forces," said Naruto. "We can lose them in the jungle. Tails told me that there's a gateway near here that will take us there," said Sonic. Then he carried Elise bridal style and proceeded to run into the woods with Naruto close behind. After a bit of running, they stopped before a lake where at the center is a small island and there is a large mirror which was displaying the image of a jungle with ancient ruins deep within. "How are you guys getting across?" "Maybe I'll have to carry you two to the other side," said Naruto as he walked on top of the water much to Elise's surprise. "There's no need, Elise has a way for us to get across," said Sonic. "Yes, just give me a moment." Elise closed her eyes in concentration and then a yellow aura radiated from her entire body before her and Sonic in the form of a force field. "Whoa, I didn't know you could do that," said Naruto with a look of surprise. "We discovered that she could create energy fields during our return from the dusty desert. It allowed me to cross over the shifting sands without sinking into it," said Sonic. "Could it be because she has the flames of disaster sealed into her?" thought Naruto. "It's a possibility since the same could be said for having me sealed inside you," said Kurama thoughtfully. Sonic ran across the water with the energy field active which gave Naruto an impression of a pseudo-water walking before following them to the mirror. The trio jumped into the mirror and found themselves floating through a void tunnel until they reached the other side. Exiting from the tunnel, they were running along a dirt path through the trees. They stepped on a dash panel to boost them faster till reaching the edge where they hit a spring which launched them high above the trees until reaching the top of a giant tree which was hollow inside. There was a spring pointing downwards towards another spring. Sonic followed by Naruto bounced off it to the other as they descended in a spiraling manner until reaching the bottom. The speeding duo stepped on yet another dash panel which boosted them towards a dash ramp launching them out of the tree to the other side. Ahead of them were Eggman's mechs who took aim ready to fire. "Looks they took a shortcut to get to us," said Sonic. "Then let's take detour," said Naruto. Sonic leapt into the air and performed his homing attack on the mechs, even if carrying someone his speed took little reduction. Naruto was doing his own thing as he pounced at one of the gunners with claws bared then slashing rapidly before jumping off towards another target. Afterwards, the group continued on their way until reaching a ravine too far to jump across and the other side was high above them. "Sonic, Naruto, look up there." They turned to where Elise pointed and saw a long vine with a purple flower at the end of it. "You can grab onto that vine and swing across to the other side." "Good idea, Elise." Sonic took a few steps back before dashing forward to jump and grab the vine with one hand while Elise held on tight. He swung back and forth a few times before letting go to land at the other side. "Now's my turn." Naruto jumped to grab the vine too and was soon with them. Dashing down the hill, they encountered more of the mechs which they dispatched with ease. Sonic dashed on top of a long tree trunk, Naruto swung on a vine which launched him to higher ground. Suddenly a laser fence appeared ahead of Sonic without, however the hedgehog quickly as he lowered his legs and was sliding until they safely passed under the trap, then he bounced off a spring into a cave. Naruto reached the end of the ledge and hit a dash ramp into the entrance of a giant hollow tree trunk. There was a spring at the center which he stepped on to send him all the way to the top where he landed on a long thin tree branch which served as a makeshift rail and proceeded to grind along it. Naruto looked down to see that he was high above the jungle canopy and couldn't even see the bottom. "I better watch my step or I might being splattered ramen on the ground," Naruto mused to himself. "Hey Naruto," he looked up to see Sonic and Elise grinding along a similar thin tree branch above him in a different direction. "How's it going?" "Just peachy." Naruto continued to grind along before sensing the gunners flying from behind as they opened fire upon him. He jumped a little to turn around and face, then he took out a kunai while activating the swift release to speed up and reflected back at them, resulting in their destruction. Naruto reached the end and flipped off to grab a nearby vine while swngng in an arc before letting go to land on a giant trunk with chakra channeled to his feet. He proceeded to dash to the top, darting left and right to avoid the branches, then he jumped and landed on a spring which bounced him towards an open cave entrance. He dashed through the tunnel with little problem thanks to glowing fungi lighting up the way. Spiraling around the passage, Naruto reached the end and jumped out. His feet landed on the cliff wall, then ran downwards while picking up speed. Naruto finally caught up with Sonic and Elise, who were also running down the cliff. "Yo!" Naruto called out to them. "Hey Naruto, let's rip it," said Sonic. "You know it." They kept on running until stepping on a dash panel which sped them through a long shuttle loop and getting launched into the air by a dash ramp which was at the end. In their descent, the trio landed through an opening in the jungle canopy into what seems to be the swampy area of the jungle, as there is a lot of water present. They also that some of the egg flyers are patrolling the area. "For them to be here must mean that it's getting tougher for them to locate us," said Naruto. "That's pretty much it, let's keep it that way," said Sonic. Naruto crossed his middle and index fingers together and summoned several shadow clones. "You guys know what to do." "Yes boss." "Transform." The sum of the clones changed into either Sonic or Elise while the others remained the same. Then the Sonic clones carried the Elise clones and took off indifferent while making sure that Eggman's mechs had caught sight of them and followed. "Heh, Eggman's going wrench his mustache once he finds out that we just led him on a wild goose chase," said Sonic, smirked with glee. "Expect no less from a prankster," said Naruto with a mischievous grin while Elise giggled at the thought of it. They dashed forward while Elise formed another energy field to help Sonic get across the water, but they had to make haste as it wouldn't last for very long. The trio got to the other side and proceeded to run up ancient wooden structures all the way to the top. Sonic grabbed onto a vine and swung over to a rainbow ring which launched him across the area with Naruto following after them. Soon they had cleared the area and were dashing through the jungle path, having successfully evaded Eggman's pursuit. The group were running through the lush jungle with nary a worry about being followed by any of the mechs. "Looks like we lost them," said Elise. "Pretty much, we won't be expecting them to show up any time soon," said Naruto. "True, but that doesn't mean that Eggman won't stop trying to capture her again," said Kurama. "That's the annoying thing about villains, they don't know when to quit," thought Naruto. "Elise, we should get you back to the castle," said Sonic. Elise looked a bit sad. "Oh okay." Sonic took note of her sadness and suddenly made a turn to the right, much to Elise and Naruto's confusion, who followed after them wondering what he was up to. That question was soon answered when they came across a lake surrounded by green grass, numerous trees blossoming, and the flowers floated in the calm breeze. Sonic led Elise down and she walked towards the scenery with eyes of wonderment, and she wasn't the only one. Naruto looked around while feeling a sense of nostalgia as it reminded him of the forest in Konoha. The memories made his heart clench in pain as it reminded him of the fact that he would never be able to go back to his loved ones. Kurama leaked out his chakra as a way to comfort him, which seems to work since Naruto smiled a bit. "Wow, it's so appealing. I've never seen so many flowers before," said Elise with a smile on her face. "Sonic, Naruto, have you two visited many wonderful places before?" "Yeah, there are a lot of places that I've been to and I'm still discovering new ones too," said Sonic. "Same here, and I got many great unforgettable memories from them," said Naruto. "Once you both defeat Eggman, you'll leave, won't you?" asked Elise in a low voice. Both were silent as her words reminded them of the many times when they had to say goodbye to the friends which they had made on their journey. Naruto and Sonic faced Elise and gave her a silent nod. "Though I've been frightened many times, I've also enjoyed this adventure. It allowed me to be something other than a princess. I was able to be myself, a girl." "It sounds like being a princess isn't that easy," said Sonic. "It isn't sometimes, but I love this country. Everyone in the castle, the children, all my citizens really, the the same love my late father and mother had. You remind me of my father and surrogate grandfather, both were leaders of my villager and their love for it gave them the strength to protect it from all kinds of opposition. Although I was sad that they're gone, I'm also proud of them and promise to protect it in their stead, so I know what you mean, said Naruto while remembering the times he spent with the third Hokage and the conversation which he had with his dad in the mindscape. Thank you Naruto, and that is why I'll do my best to protect my country. At first I didn't understand what my parents truly meant, but I do now. When you two leave here to go off on another adventure, remember this place. We will, I'll promise to never forget about all this if you'll do the same. Naruto stepped forward and held out his pinky finger out to her. Elise smiled upon hearing this and crossed her pinky finger with his, I promise to never forget about the good times we had. And don't forget about me. Sonic walked up to them and crossed his pinky finger with theirs. Then she suddenly hugged the both of them much to their surprise because she was holding back the tears that threatened to come out. Elise, please don't be sad, just smile, said Sonic. Naruto nodded in agreement. After that emotional moment, the trio continued on their way to the city of Solana with smiles on their faces despite the eventual farewell that would soon come. Meanwhile, high in the sky, the flying aircraft known as the egg carrier was slowly making its way towards a designated located. Dr. Eggman sat at the cockpit with a look of anger and determination. This is far from over. I will acquire the flames of disaster, and neither Sonic nor that annoying fox is going to stop me from achieving world domination. It was a normal day in the city of Solana and everyone were going about their daily activities without a worry in the world when suddenly a giant shadow loomed over the city. The inhabitants looked to the sky in curiosity and began to shake with fear upon seeing something that was all too familiar to them. It was the egg carrier which was slowly flying over the city and towards the castle where Princess Elise accompanied by the ladies-in-waiting watched from the balcony. Then Eggman's voice was heard through the loudspeaker for everyone to hear. Princess Elise, ruler of Solana, your refusal to negotiate has forced me to take drastic actions. Meet me at the specified point alone at 4 o'clock today. Failure to do so on time will result in my leveling of this city so that nothing but ashes remain. Elise was silent as she was deep in thought before one of the ladies-in-waiting spoke up. Miss Elise, will you really go to him? I'm afraid so. In order to protect my people from harm I will have to comply with his demands, said Elise. She turned around and proceeded to walk away. But MSTRS, isn't there any other way? Asked the other lady-in-waiting worriedly. There's no other choice, it is my duty as the Princess of Solana to go. Elise resumed her walk with the ladies watching on with worry and hoping that someone would once again help save the princess from Eggman. Meanwhile, within the depths of tropical jungle, Naruto sat on the ground in the middle of a clearing cross-legged and eyes closed to show that he was deep in meditation. After escorting Princess Elise to the castle, Naruto went back to the jungle for some training in order to readjust himself to the natural energy and regain sage mode. Orange pigmentation appeared around Naruto's eyes before opening them to reveal yellow toad-like irises, and he was wearing his short-sleeved red coat with a black flame pattern around the hem which normally appears when sage mode is activated and disappears afterwards. Naruto looked to the west with a frown on his face as he stood up. You sense that too, Kurama? Asked Naruto. Yeah, the citizens are panicking in the city. It must mean that Eggman has returned, said Kurama with a growl. Then we better head back to the city. Naruto immediately took off while darting left and right to avoid the giant trees for a few minutes before exiting the tropical jungle and was on the road to the city of Solana. After reaching his destination, Naruto could see the looks of worry on the faces of the citizens as he walked along the streets. You might as well ask them what happened before we got here, said Kurama. Nodding in affirmation, Naruto approached a man and called out to him, Excuse me, but could you tell me what's going on? I just got here and saw everyone making a fuss. It was Dr. Eggman. He came here with his fleet of robots and threatened to destroy the city unless Princess Elise surrendered herself to him, so she chose to go to him in order to protect us, said the man. I see, thanks for the information, said Naruto before running off with a frown on his face. That guy just doesn't know when to quit. Now's not the time to complain, we need to figure out where they would be heading to, said Kurama. You've a point there, said Naruto before walking off to gather any source of information. Inside the egg carrier, Elise could be seen seated on a chair at the main control room as Eggman walked around. You wasted so much of my time. If you had cooperated with me earlier, I wouldn't have to do this, said Eggman. What are you trying to do, Dr. Eggman? Why are you trying to revive the flames of disaster? Asked Elise. Did your parents ever disclose anything to you about Solaris? Solaris's secrets are in his eternal flames. His power can change time, and even manipulate the fabric of time itself. I wish to obtain this power and dominate everything in this world. From the past all the way to the future. You wish to rule over time. That's right, and the secret, it remains dormant in you, princess. Dr. Eggman approached the control panel and proceeded to input commands on the keypad. The Princess of Solana and the 7 Chaos Emeralds. Once I have everything, the fate of the world will change. And one of the appealing gems is just ahead. Chaos Emerald located, said the AI of the computer system as it displayed the target on the screen. Finally, now let's go collect that Chaos Emerald. Meanwhile, Naruto had met up with Sonic and Tails, who had also heard of Dr. Eggman's appearance in the city and Princess Elisa's surrender. From what I've speculated, Eggman will probably head over to the ancient castle, said Tails. Then we should get there first and save Elise, said Sonic. Do you know how to get there? Asked Naruto. Actually no, but I heard of a bishop that would know of the way to that place, said Tails. Let's go and ask around for him, said Sonic. The trio went around the city while asking for directions to where the bishop could be found and were told that he was last seen at the Bell Town. They went there and found the man they were looking for. Excuse me, sir, we're looking for a way to enter the ancient castle, asked Tails. The way to the ancient castle of Solana? It's been a while since anyone has asked me that, said the bishop. The old castle is a holy place, and only those of the royal family may enter. Is there any other way? Asked Naruto. There is, the entrance is blocked by a special seal, which tests anyone who tries to enter. If you want to enter the old castle, you must overcome 3 trials. These are the trials of life and death. Are you sure you want to face them? Yes, we are, said Sonic with Naruto nodding in agreement. Very well, I'll take you to the trials. Then the bishop led the group out of the city to a forest through an unknown route until they found themselves standing before what appears to be an ancient temple, and there are 3 priests inside. Here is where the trials will take place. Speak to any of the priests to begin a trial. I wish you luck, said the bishop. Let's get this over with, we need to get to the ancient castle quickly, said Naruto. With that said, Naruto and Sonic took on each of the trials. The first was a test of courage, where they had to use warp gates which teleports to different places. Picking the wrong warp gate will send them back to the beginning, while the right ones would get them closer to the goal. The second was the test of courage. Here the duo had to defeat several groups of robots without receiving a single hit. The final was the test of love, where they had to choose whom they loved the most. Both passed that test but refused to reveal whom they loved, with Naruto looking a bit depressed. Upon returning to the temple, Sonic and Naruto saw 2 large eagles hovering in the air before them. You both have passed all 3 trials, these eagles will carry you, said one of the priests. Thanks very much, said Naruto. Sonic and Naruto jumped and grabbed onto the talons of each birds as they were carried to the top of the temple, where they saw another one of those large mirrors which was displaying the image of ancient castle ruins. Without hesitation, they leapt into the mirror and soon themselves standing in the middle of a vast open plain, and a few kilometers from them are the tall walls that surround the ancient castle of Kingdom Valley. They ran down the road and were halfway across when a fleet of egg gunners landed on the ground before them, forcing Naruto and Sonic to skid to a stop. You tin cans better get out of our way. Naruto drew out a Hiraishin kunai ready to attack, with Sonic crouching a bit as he prepared to dash at them. Suddenly a cyan aura surrounds all of them, completely halting their movements. Then someone landed before them, and it's to their surprise that the person was none other than Silver the Hedgehog. Silver thrust his hands forward, which sent the robots flying backwards and being destroyed in the process. He turned to face the duo, but they noticed that he wasn't aggressive, and soon Blaze landed next to him. "You two look like you're in a hurry," said Silver. He then looked at Naruto, "And you must be Naruto." "And you're Silver the Hedgehog, Nico told me about you," said Naruto. "Nico?" Silver looked confused. "Sorry, it's a name which I called Blaze since it means cat in my language." Naruto rubbed the back of his head, looking sheepish. "So what's going on?" asked Sonic curiously. "Circumstances have changed. I need to rescue the princess," said Silver. "It looks like you know the full truth, don't you?" said Naruto. Silver nodded in confirmation. "Yeah, Sonic was never the Iblis trigger, and Mafils had been lying to us this whole time. Naruto was right about him. Our true target is Dr. Eggman," said Blaze. "Then let's get a move on," said Sonic before continuing on his way with Naruto, Silver, and Blaze close behind. Elsewhere on the dusty desert, Shadow, Rouge and Omega stood on one of the ruins overlooking the landscape as they closed in on their target with a new scepter of darkness in hand. "Mafils appears to be headed for those ruins. He's probably looking for the Chaos Emerald that's supposed to be there," said Rouge. "There's no doubt in my mind, his movements show that he's seeking any Chaos Emeralds he can find. Supposedly, he needs one in order to join with Iblis again," said Shadow. "I will seal him before that," said Omega. When he and Silver jumped through the time rift, they ended up going back to when the great disaster occurred in the Solaris project. It was there they discovered that Mafils and Iblis were both created from Solaris. Then the dying Duke gave Shadow the original scepter of darkness to seal Mafils away, hence explaining why the dark being was so familiar with him before. Silver pursued Iblis and held it in place with his psychic powers. Then Duke brought an unconscious Elise, who was a child at that time, and used a Chaos Emerald to sealing the flaming entity within her. After returning to the present, Shadow met up with Rouge and Omega, who revealed a shocking truth: the one who defeated and sealed him in the future was Omega himself. Apparently there was some truth as to what Mafils said before, that humanity feared his power and that he would turn against them, which was why they programmed Omega with the command to subdue Shadow should it ever happen. Despite that, Shadow still chose to go after Mafils as he remembered the words which Naruto told him, along with Rouge and Omega offering their full support no matter what happens. "Let's be on our way. I'm pretty sure that Sonic and Foxy are making sure that Eggman doesn't get his hands on the flames of disaster," said Rouge. "Okay then, let's go." Shadow skated off with Rouge and Omega close behind as they went in search of Mafils. So alright folks, that's all for today. Stay tuned for part 3. Do subscribe, like and share for more such videos. Also check out the story and author Hussbek on FANFICTIONnet. Press the bell icon to be notified first on release. See you in the next video. Till then, goodbye.